What is going on, everyone? We are here on the live channel for an EU book club, and it's been a while. It's been a while since we've talked EU stuff, at least on any of my channels, and we're going to do it with what I would consider one of my favorite Star Wars books of all time, I, Jedi, and it's the first time in a while that I've read it, and I gotta say, I think I have maybe some different thoughts about it this time around after coming back to it. So here joining me, as almost is the case every time, we have Holocron Keeper Evan. What's up, Evan?
What's up, man? Glad to be here on your channel again. Got finished with this book a couple days ago. Interested to talk about it, and always glad to host this.
Is his mic really low for anybody else, or is that
Yes.
just me?
No.
Sounds like you're far away, Evan.
It sounds like you're either far away. Try it again. Can you speak?
I knew what happened there. I know what happened there. It was picking up my my other mic here that I have back here.
There you go. All right. Evan, listen, we talked about it before, and there's always something going on with Evan. It is always this like scramble in some way, shape, or form. But we're glad you're here with us. And then we also have Open Airlock Policy. What's going on, Tim?
What's up? Got the original hardcover right here. So,
see, that is awesome. That is something I do not have. That should be on my wish list, to be quite honest with you, because I only have the paperback, and I can't even find it because I read the book, got done reading it like 2 weeks ago, and now my book's mysteriously somewhere in this room. But I go ahead, Evan. You gonna say something?
Yeah. Next time I'm out and about at some of these half-price books, I've run across the hardback of I, Jedi before. If I run across it, I'll let you know. I'll pick it up for you and ship it to you, Ryan.
Dude, that would be awesome. Yeah, because I've never seen. I never see Star Wars books here in any of the used book stores I go to. So
they're scarce everywhere, man. So
I see. I never have too much of a problem with that because I just got this whole lot. There's more, but picked up this whole batch yesterday of stuff.
That's nice.
I guess around here it's just more prevalent, but I guess that's just what it's like here in Ohio. Teresa, I guess it's to your introduction.
That's right. What's going on, Teresa?
Well, not much. Just chilling, sitting back, drinking lots of peppermint coffee, and
nice.
Ready to be
got my own
epically lazy for the next few weeks while reading too much.
There you go. It is that time where you can just sit around and do whatever you want, basically. So that's exciting. Let me pull up this stream right there. All right. Now I'm in the right spot. So first impressions, I guess. So for me, this is one of my favorite books, or like kind of always has been, but it's been a while since I've read it. I love Corran Horn. He's somebody that I wish wouldn't have just disappeared during New Jedi Order after winning the fight for Ithor, and then subsequently it not mattering. But he's always been one of my favorite characters. So I always really love this book because I love the Rogue Squadron novels. And then to have him worlds colliding there, finally taken upon to train to be a Jedi and everything. I've always loved the book. What did you guys feel this time around? Or if I think everyone's probably read it before now. But Tim, what was your experience this time around?
Well, I'm trying to say this in the most respectful way I can, but when you read this, did you kind of get the sense that Corran was Stackpole's Gary Stu a little bit? It's like, he made him like Tavira's like sex toy, like her boy toy and all that stuff. He took over, like Leia said, "You're in charge," of the Academy when I'm leaving, when Luke was out. It just seems like he was the best at everything, and I'm fine with that, but it was I didn't remember it that way the first time around years ago. But it was definitely noticeable in this era where we're recognizing that kind of stuff more often. So
basically, this book is kind of a big fuck you to Kevin J. Anderson, honestly.
Yes, it was.
It's like, hey, all this stuff that you didn't explain in your book that really should have been explained. Here, I'm going to explain it all and make my character the central figure of it.
Mhm.
And are you going to open to the like where he does his thanks?
Yeah, I want to see if he put him in there.
So
'Cause-
he does in the book. Like if
Yeah,
I
he
remember
does.
right, there's a thing that says thank you to Kevin J. Anderson, and then thank you to Timothy Zahn for a paragraph worth of shit.
Yeah.
You know, Stackpole and Zahn were always kind of buddies, and it always seemed like they didn't like what Kevin J. Anderson did, whether it's with the comics or with his books.
Right. It says precisely Kevin J. Anderson for having provided the background for half this book, and A.C. Crispin and Christine Catherine Rush for working tidbits of story back and forth with me. So he wasn't working back and forth with KJA, so
Right.
he was out by then. This is one of the last Bantam books. May 1998 is the first published date. So
Yeah, I always felt that both himself and Zahn almost worked in tandem with this kind of correcting some things that they didn't like, particularly in this Kevin J. Anderson trilogy, because in the Spectre of the Past and Vision of the Future, you kind of had Mara, Zahn's voice speaking through Mara about some of those big complaints when she's
resurrected
loading off
Palpatine.
on Luke. Yeah, she talks about that and a few other things. I really, really caught it this time, Tim. Like you, it not only came across as a bit of an FU, but I wanted to punch him in the face a few times. And I love Cornhorn, but this time around, I wanted to punch that little person in the face because he was being
He is a little
such
person
an
too.
arrogant ass, wasn't he?
Well,
Hey,
and you know, Jaina brought up a good point that Corrin shows up Luke every step of the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to be fair, remember when we were talking about Jedi Academy trilogy? Basically, I said like every book, I'm like Luke's a fucking idiot. Like that was one of my biggest problems with those books is how dumb Luke is, and he kind of is that same way in these books, honestly. But Corrin is just, it's like, and I don't know if that's a shot or whatever, but Corrin Horn is essentially like, hey, Luke, you got this guy, Kip. He's kind of going to the dark side. Do you not see this? I've clearly understood that Exar Kun is possessing him. Why can't you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And in fairness, I guess, I think we all kind of wanted in Jedi Academy trilogy just kind of shake Luke and be like, what is your problem?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know really how to feel about that, I guess. Because on one hand, it makes sense because of what they've given us, but also it is frustrating to see, you know, another character show up Luke like that, but he kind of deserves it at times.
Mm-hmm.
Evan, what about you? You've read this before, right?
Actually, this is my first time reading through this one. I've read, I've gone into the summary a bit and, you know, looked into it before, read a few passages from it, but this was my actually first time reading it all the way through. I didn't find this to be a bad book. The first person perspective is very weird, trying to write a whole book with that, I should say. And it's just very weird how they did that.
I liked it. That is one of the reasons I really like this book.
It's unique. Yeah. It's definitely unique. However, the thing about it is that no other Star Wars book is like this, at least novel-wise. This is the only one that is written completely first person. And I did like some elements with this book, which later showed up in other material and referenced back to some Kevin J. Anderson to elaborate on more of the later Tales of the Jedi comics. Sorry about that. Mine was blanking there. But no, it's a solid book to me, and it's not that bad. My first impressions are it's good. And it does good things to fix the previous trilogy.
Yeah. So there's kind of 3 acts to this book. It reacts to a lot of books, but like these are pretty delineated. You have the introduction where you find out that Mirix has been kidnapped. You have the Jedi Academy part. So the intro is the intro, but then the first real big act is the Jedi Academy part. Then you have him as an invid, and then you kind of have the culmination of them taking down and getting Mirix back. So let's start at the beginning. We get thrown right into a mission with Rogue Squadron, and listen, Michael A. Stackpole, in my opinion, his books are the Bible for space combat. He essentially is the one that set all of the rules for space combat with his series, at least description of like how everything really works. The first time we kind of really saw that. So anytime we get space combat from Stackpole, I love it. So we get thrown right in, realize that, Corran's still doing his thing with Rogue Squadron. He gets back from a mission. They do set up the Invid pirates and everything. He gets back from a mission. Mirix is not there. Mirix is his wife. We were introduced to her in the X-Wing series. She's a smuggler's daughter, if you're not familiar with it. Corran and Mirix, both their fathers were like bitter rivals because one was a police officer with Corsac and one was a smuggler. So Corran's dad locked up Mirix's dad in the spice mines of Kessel. So that's kind of how they got to meet. We find out that Mirix has been kidnapped, and Corran finds out that she was actually working undercover to try to take down the same people that Rogue Squadron is taking down, just on a kind of an intelligence side of things. Do you guys have really anything to say about like that kind of introduction and how they set it up? I feel like it happens. Obviously, Corran is force sensitive, but he immediately is like, wow, she should be here right now. And when she isn't, he freaks out and immediately goes and tells everyone. No, never mind. He had the vision.
I was about ready to say, and she called out to him in the middle of it. Yeah. Well,
he went to bed. He went to sleep, and then he had the vision. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you, Ryan. It's always great with Stackpole just jumping right into it. And the X-Wing books are probably, as a series or an arc, my favorite of all the EUs as far as an ongoing one. And I read through them and then went right into iJedi and page turned it. It was so much fun. And it was also so much fun seeing him as he was as a Jedi and fully force sensitive, and with Mirix, because I'm a shipper, so I always love it when they all get together and are living happily ever after. And oh my gosh, his lady love, and he has that vision, and as she calls out to him, I think it's a fun start.
Yeah, and speaking of like shipping, like we talk about like the Raylas and everything, but like even the authors have ships, that sometimes get interrupted by each other, because you have Wedge and
Ayala.
Wedge and Ayala, but then there was a time there where somebody else wanted to connect Wedge and Quizux. So another Kevin J. Anderson, Michael Stackpole. Maybe that's one of the reasons they don't quite like each other. So that is funny, but essentially, Corran's getting stonewalled. He can't do anything. They won't tell him. His own military won't tell him where Mirix is at, what she was doing. So luckily, his buddy Wedge and his best friend Luke Skywalker happen to be there. And Luke's like, listen, I think really the only way that you're going to be able to find them is if you become a Jedi. And one, I don't necessarily love the idea in principle from Luke, because this is before the prequels, this is before like attachments, blah blah blah, but at the same time you have someone who is like very mad and very desperate to save someone he loves and will just do whatever he needs to. You're like, hey, become a Jedi. And I don't know if that's the best like emotional state you want that person in, to become a Jedi. And we see that play out in a lot of ways. Corran really struggles with some of the decisions throughout this entire book.
Apparently he's on a lot of Viagra.
Oh my god.
That just means he was missing Mirix.
Space Viagra.
That's what that tells me.
Uh,
What, you don't agree, Evan?
no, I'm just finding it funny that you brought up space Viagra.
Well, what can I say? The man was always thinking about it more than anything else in this book. I don't know if it's Michael Stackpole was going through a little bit of a dry spell with his significant other or what, but my gosh.
Well, Stackpool, it's funny, is it the second, is it Wedge's Gamble when they take Coruscant?
Yes.
So in Wedge's Gamble, when he's with what's her name? It's been so long since we wrote on Alicia, or
Who is she?
the Thypheran spy, right?
Arisi Delaret.
Arisi, yeah, there it is. Arisi. There's like a scene with her where she basically unzips her flight suit and is about to have her tits hanging out. Yeah, I know. And like Michael Stackpole is like describes like how Corin's feeling. So maybe that's just something that he likes to talk about. But there were a couple parts specifically when talking about Tavira. He really wanted to fuck Tavira. Like even and at one point he's like, I love Mirix. I couldn't be jealous, but actually I really am. I really don't want that other guy to fuck her. I want to fuck her. It's kind of like what he was going through in his head. And that's we can save that a little bit for later, I guess, because that's one thing I have is Corin even mentions, he's like, I've gone undercover dozens of times. I've busted rings like this. So for him to get so lost in this experience and really almost lose his way in this pirate gang, it just seemed like a strange thing to me.
It definitely is kind of strange, yeah. For someone who's, been with the rebellion, again, with Corsac, and of course the New Republic, that just seems very weird, especially since the rebels are guerrilla fighters, they're spies, they're under, stuff to that nature. It does seem very weird.
Well, and it was interesting how they transitioned from those, what did you call them earlier, the three parts of the book? It's interesting how they transitioned from, okay, I'm here at the Academy, but wait a minute, I really don't need Jedi skills. I need Corsac skills. So I'm going to go back to Corellia and train with Hal. So
it is like, well, even so, Tim, you told me something I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Go ahead and say that to everyone.
Oh, about the time of the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you read, like, the inside jacket, it says... What's that woman he lives with? Liz Danforth or something like that? I don't know if it's his wife or not. But he says, thanks for putting up with me for the 30 days I took to write this book. But back in the day, because we talked about all this shit on America Online, which it kind of looked like Evan looks right now back then. But we talked about all this stuff back then. And somewhere out there, and I couldn't find it, I looked all over online, he wrote this motherfucker in 17 days. So I don't know if he means he took some days off in between or if it was like 17 consecutive days, but that's what I remember reading out there somewhere. And that's just phenomenal for 500 pages. Almost 500 pages.
It is. You mentioned that, though, Tim, with me looking like I'm American Online. To me, you look, very pixelated to me. I don't know if...
Me?
No, Tim does.
Touch.
That's not good.
Yeah, everyone's having a tough time tonight, I guess.
Except for me. I look lovely, my rose.
The rose is perfect. The rose is perfect pixelation.
Perfect.
1080p. 4K.
4K rose.
But Corin does, he decides to go and kind of undergo his legacy after some words from his dead father, which reminded me of Dark Forces with Kyle Katarn a lot, that scene where he's kind of hearing from his father, like, by the way, your grandfather isn't your real grandfather, he's your step-grandfather, who adopted me after your father, or after your actual grandfather died. And I was training to be a Jedi. But we were, it was in secret because of the purge and everything. I do want to say now, Evan is someone who needs or who likes to talk about timelines a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's weird timelines in this book between the ages of these people involved, whether it's Neja, Halcyon, or Hal, or the person, the Jensari leader that we eventually see at the end. Like the ages, to me, I don't quite understand how it all lines up.
Yeah. So when I was first reading this, I'm like, I could have sworn that, at least from what I remember, I could have sworn that Corran was Neja's son. But I'm like, no, that's not right because of this. I'm like, so by the time of the Clone Wars, Neja's son, which is Hal Horn, I believe, is what his real name is, if memory is serving, he would have been in his 20s because 20s are like late teens because Corran was born 18 BBY. Literally a year after the Clone Wars ended.
Right. So when this book was written, the timeline for the Clone Wars
it was like 32. Like
exactly,
I think that was like the rough thing was like 32 BBY was the rough estimate on when this purge happens, when the Empire rises. That kind of got switched around, and it's like, because I think that came from George himself saying you can't do anything like 30 years, in this stretch of time.
Yeah, exactly. So people assume that's kind of when the Clone Wars had ended,
right?
And that's I think was kind of his plan, and then he switched it up a little bit. That's kind of what I think,
right?
And so the timelines are a little funky for sure, because you're like, wait, you were at the end. We get to the end, and it's like, wait, you were the husband, the wife of this person that died to his grandfather. Why the fuck aren't you like 90? Like that's what you're kind of working out in your head.
And here's another funny thing is that because I've read iJedi, like I'm halfway through iJedi right now. Kind of put a pause on that.
Wait, through the book we're reading?
Yeah. Like not iJedi, Jedi Trial. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was like, what the fuck, Evan?
They both have Jedi in their title. I'm sorry. I was like halfway through it. I'm just like when I think of Neja in that book, I'm like picturing him like 30, like almost, he's around Obi-Wan's age at that point, not really in his 40s yet to me. But I don't know, it's weird, like how I'm perceiving some of these characters. If that makes sense.
Also, it's not really mentioned in this book, but
I think I know what you're getting to.
Obi-Wan?
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about? Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan. So when they meet with Elgo Sakla's ancestor, Neja Halcyon, the third Jedi with them it's not mentioned, but it's Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it's I think he's mentioned as Desert Wind.
Desert Wind. Yeah, exactly.
And you know what's funny about that is that, and I picked this up because I read Cis Deception recently. Guess what the kind of the terrorist organization in that book is called? It's called Desert Wind.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very weird. Is that I don't know if that's what Stephen Barnes was going for there, alluding to that or what, but it was something I picked up on, and it also alludes to A New Hope with him in the desert after the purge, on Tatooine. It's very interesting, some of these links, and we didn't have confirmation until Abel G. Pina wrote Skywalkers. Actually, it was Lone Wolf, The Tale of Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker, I think, is when when Obi-Wan's, if you haven't read it, go out, find a copy of Skywalkers. It's an e-novel, but it's about Obi-Wan taking Luke to Tatooine. It's that kind of like in between thing. They stop off at Nar Shaddaa, and then they encounter trouble with one of the Jensari trying to take revenge, and another one which is the what was the ones from that Yoda wiped out? The
ones who came to Dagobah that they had to fight.
the Bit Fash.
Yeah.
The Fashi.
Yeah, the three Dark Jedi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have like those two teaming up on Obi-Wan and that. And it's very interesting. It's an interesting read, and if you can find it, go out and get it or contact me because I have a copy and I can send you the PDF or whatever. But it's a bit of interesting lost kind of media, I should say.
So at the end of the day, he decides it's time for me I need my Jedi skills to go find my wife.
Yeah.
And he's going undercover as Kieran Halcyon. I hate that name. Halcyon. I don't know how to fucking say it.
I think it's Halcyon.
Halcyon. Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Well, so many of these, like, I've also, like, Jen Sarai, Jen Sari. I don't know how to pronounce these things. We just do it. And then you hear an audiobook and it's pronounced one way, and then it's a different way in another one.
You're right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so Kieran now, which is pretty close to Corrin, which is probably pretty easy for him, dyes his hair because evidently everyone would have known he was at the Jedi Academy if he didn't dye his hair. He's so well known.
And grow a beard, they said.
Yeah, grow a beard. I'm sure he had glasses too, right? Like Clark Kent.
Yeah, I had glasses with like a nose on him and a mustache. It's basically what he was doing. So he goes over there. He goes to Luke's Jedi Academy. He's one of the first recruits, basically. And essentially what you have is the story of the Jedi Academy trilogy, which, let's be real, one of I think a lot of people's major complaints about that trilogy is that they don't actually focus on the events of the Jedi Academy and on the students enough. I honestly think that you have a better telling of how the students trained, what the students went through in this book than you have in the entirety of the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the parts that I enjoyed a lot. It went into more detail about some of the training that Luke did, and since it was first person, we got to see some of that cool Force stuff through Corrin's eyes. I like that.
Like
the experience.
We actually got real, like, hey, this is kind of, instead of just like a feeling of the Force, this is like what the Force is like. This is what it's like for someone to figure out how to use the Force.
Yeah.
Like when they're doing that, when they're doing the thing where they have to like move a stone as close to someone's skin as they can, and you see how he's like kind of thinking about things, and he's like, wait, I can just maybe focus my attention a little more. If I just focus on the arm instead of their whole presence, then I can do other things. And he's kind of like segmenting different parts and layers of skin to the hairs and everything. I thought that was cool, like a cool way to explore how someone is beginning to learn how to control the Force.
Yeah. That sphere of responsibility, I thought, was an interesting concept.
Say that again?
Sphere of responsibility that he kept talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. That was like a video game thing, but I'm not seeing that in a negative way. I thought it was pretty cool at the time. It stuck with me. So I remembered that for years. That's
true. And then we also find out that, and I think this is interesting. I don't know where he got this idea, exactly why he decided to go this route, but Corrin Horn, the Halcyon line, has problems with telekinesis. Well, the males in the line have a problem with Force telekinesis. They can't use it, at least not very effectively. Basically, if Corrin really strains, he can like make a pebble float around a bit. Like he's almost useless, effectively useless at Force telekinesis. And that's something that goes back in his family line. But kind of as a trade-off, he gets that weakness, but he also gets a couple of very unique strengths. And you kind of said like a video game. He does this thing where they're sitting there. He's been struggling with Force telekinesis. He can't use it very well.
Yep.
They're standing on this big, giant rock. And Corrin's like, well, maybe I just need a real like challenge. Maybe I just need to really like let myself go. So he like closes his eyes and he just like envisions himself lifting this enormous rock in the air with like all of his might, and he's like pushing it out there, and he sees himself lift it up, and everyone is like watching him as he lifts it up. He opens his eyes and the rock's still on the ground, but all the students around are looking up at where he saw that rock. What he's doing is he's projecting this image into everyone's mind that he is lifting this rock, when in reality he didn't. And then Luke, like the next day, consults the holocron, and like in very video game fashion, it's called Alter Mind. It's like, this power is called Alter Mind. And Voto CS Boss explains what it does. And that, to me, is a scene that will always stick out to me when I think about iJedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. But why not? It's fun.
Yeah.
I was a lot more forgiving for a lot of things, and I think it's probably unfair of me that some of it I accepted a lot more coming from Stackpole than I did from Kevin J. Anderson.
Well, and this also, I don't know how long he had this. I don't know how long he had this plan, because this explains what happened in the escape from Lusanka. When he like is just God, this stormtrooper, you'll see nothing. You're not going to see anything. You're not going to see anything, or he's going to get kidnapped. And the stormtrooper, he was able to affect the mind of that very weak-willed stormtrooper, mind you, to not see him when he was looking for him. So it does kind of all bring that back and be like, okay, the Halcyons have an affinity for this technique. So,
and you know what else was interesting? In the Jedi Academy trilogy, they had so many slots of students. Was it 8 or 9? But they only revealed like 5 or
12.
6. So there was
12.
Yeah, it was 12. So there was room for expansion there, and I thought that was, if it was intentional, I think it was brilliant. If it wasn't intentional, then it was good capitalizing on that opportunity. So they didn't have to shoehorn it in, I guess, because there were more students than were shown in those books.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason he was able to do this.
Yeah.
Because Corran is essentially Kieran, who is like a background unnamed character in these now. You have, who did they name? They named Kenth. They named Tion. Cam. Is Cam here? Stream.
No, Kenth and Cam are different people. Kenth came during the New Jedi Order. Yeah, Cam Solasar was the one.
They definitely have Cam and Tion.
Stream.
Sigil.
Let me see.
Does Kenth come during New Jedi Order or sometime in between?
Sometime in between, but that's when they actually use him.
I think he is actually like some kind of dark, in maybe one of the kids' adventures. Did they introduce him?
Possibly, yeah.
I'll look.
Yeah. That might be it. Because he's like a leader of some random dark Jedi something, I thought, or like Imperial something. You have Stream, Sigil, and
Taurus.
Karana T. I think Karana T does get a name drop in Jedi Academy trilogy. I think came back from Dathomir from Courtship, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my
And that's
favorite
it.
part of Courtship. Yeah.
Oh, and Dorsk 81,
Oh, yes.
the clone guy.
Yeah, I guess Dorsk is his name too. Yes, you have 6 or 7 people out of the dozen or so. And then Ganturus blows himself up. Kip blows up everything else.
Mara just kind of. We'll probably get to Mara here soon because
Yeah,
she
she noped
plays.
out.
I gotta know.
All right. Let me think where it begins, because again, it's a long book and I'm just trying to remember.
Well, so he's there, right? He's there trying to learn the ways of the Force. Mara Jade shows up, and Luke's like got this big beaming smile on his face. He's a fucking simp. And he's like, "Mara's joining us. Kieran, why don't you take her to wherever she needs to go?" And
Sure, that was a Zahn kind of thing. That is like, hey, can you put this in here?
Yeah. By the way, can you just make sure it's known that that Mara and Lando aren't fucking?
Yeah. It's all a
totally
ruse.
Yeah. so she comes and they have a little thing, and he actually reveals his identity to her because Luke trusts her, and they end up being pretty important to the downfall of Exar Kun. So it's a retelling. It is very much a retelling of what happened in the Jedi Academy novels. While everyone, it turns out that all along, if Corran hadn't been there, they would have all failed. If Corran hadn't been there to kind of organize everything and inspire everyone and be like, Streen, I know you've basically been possessed by Exar Kun, but you're not going to fail, buddy. I have faith in you. They kind of were able to split off the attention of Exar Kun a little bit between possession and influence of Kip, what he was doing trying to kill Luke while he's in stasis, and also what was going on at the actual like temple area. And this is what I'll say. I think that there's a little too much like, hey, Corran figured this all out immediately.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the Gary Stu part.
Now, like, there is, I mean, he is an investigator. He is, a detective, basically. That's what his job was. So there is at least a little room to be like, well, he would put these pieces together, and he even provoked Kip at one point to try to get a reaction out of him by mentioning, he's like, hey, by the way, Exar Kun's a fucking loser. Kip
he's a fucking loser. You're his little bitch.
Yeah, and Kip freaks out and force blast Corran. And that's kind of his indicator that, yeah, Exar Kun's definitely controlling him. And then he goes to Luke to tell him, and Luke's like, you did something to provoke him, didn't you?
Yeah.
Luke, you're so dumb.
So it's an old course sector. It's an old interrogation technique. It's like,
yeah.
I'm like, are you shitting me, Luke?
Yes, but that goes back because, like I said, my complaint about the Jedi Academy trilogy is Luke is kind of naive in it and doesn't recognize some of these big warning signs. So to retell this story, you have to keep that consistent.
Yeah.
But I think they just went a little bit overboard with how they used Corran to be this linchpin for everything that happened instead of just being a piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I was kind of getting at the beginning. Like, you're reading it and like, wow, really? He did that? I don't remember that. It's been 20
while all
years.
those flying creatures were attacking, Corran was actually in the sky fighting them with a Z.
Yeah, I laughed at that. Yeah.
Like, oh, Corran, you're my hero. I didn't know you were so perfect.
Well, but he isn't perfect. We find that out a lot in this book, that he has some pretty big flaws. And
biggest flaw is easily falling in love.
wanting to fuck everything that moves.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, as far as what he was doing, of course, yeah, I thought that's why I liked the second part of the book a little bit better.
He does also, when confronting Exar Kun, he's like very confident. He's like, listen, bitch, I've studied you. I know all about you. I know that you can't do anything to affect the physical world. And Exar Kun just like, boom, and like snaps his leg.
like, you want a bet, bitch?
Yeah, and so he's like, maybe I didn't think about that. So there are some things that go wrong for him. Luckily, Mara's there to help him out.
Yay.
Yeah. So Corran is basically lethal. Yes. OG Star Wars says, I love Corran, but yeah, how they write him to fit him in is a bit cringe. Yeah, it's just, it's a little bit over the top.
They made him too important to the plot. Like they made him too important to the plot of Jedi Academy trilogy when all he had to do was be there, and explain away some of the stuff.
Now they did do some great things like that, like the like hot springs scene, basically. That you get that telling in Jedi Academy, and you get it from here. And that, to me, it actually like fits in really well. And that's how Corran kind of discovers that he can absorb energy, which we haven't really talked about that. Too. Yeah. We haven't talked about that. It's another thing that he has, the absorb energy, which is to the menace. Yeah. Because he is able to absorb the energy from that hot spring and actually use telekinesis. That's the only way he can use it, is if he has absorbed power from something else temporarily so he can redirect it. But basically what happens is, they save the temple. Corrin looks up in the mirror and is like, this is not who I am. I've been trying to become someone I'm not. I can save Mirix. Like, I'm just wasting my time here trying to become a Jedi. I don't need to be a Jedi to save Mirix. I've had what I needed all along, and that's his Corsac ability. So he decides to say, fuck off, Luke. What you're doing here is not for me.
It's also because, he let Kip kind of, after all that, he let Kip kind of walk free when he's like, what the heck? This guy killed millions upon billions of innocents, and you're letting him back in, slap on the wrist.
Wasn't too happy with that.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah. So he decides, listen, I'm going to do this shit the way I probably should have been tackling all along. Now, he spent 10 weeks there, if I'm not mistaken. Does that timeline sound right to you guys? I thought I heard, but I read at one point he's talking to Booster, because what happens, he then goes to Booster Tarek, Mirix's father, on the Errant Venture.
Which is a red ISP.
Yes, and Booster basically is like, where the fuck you been? And, why haven't you been getting Mirix? You've been playing Jedi. And he's like, listen, for the past 10 weeks, you haven't contacted me either, which means you knew she was missing because you knew she was a part of this whole thing. So that's where I get the 10-week timeline from. Which that's similar to the timeline we have for Luke training on Dagobah. So, it's not too far out. So I would put Corrin's skill level at roughly, kind of where Luke was at Empire. Yeah. Except he can't use any form of telekinesis.
Yeah, there's like a parallel there where he leaves his training early, So.
Yeah. Now we get to he goes there and he's like, listen, I need to infiltrate these guys from the inside. Booster helps them find an identity, find where they need to go. He also goes to Corellia at one point and talks to his grandfather, who's actually his step-grandfather, learns a little bit more about his history. That stuff's good. It's not super important plot-wise, other than just giving Corrin more background. What do you think, Evan? You about to say something?
The flowers, right? The plants that was kind of stupid.
Like the genetic line of Jedi or something.
Yeah, that's one of the more weirder things in the EU to me, right there. I mean, I don't know. It's weird to me that that's even a thing. I'm sorry. It just I think the last time I considered something weird like that was the Mon Calamari weird face things in the what is it, the first or second book in the Jedi Academy trilogy?
Yeah.
Dark Apprentice?
I think so. It was the things that allowed them to breathe underwater on Mon Calamari, Leia specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of...
I like the Yuzong Vong. What are those called? They're like starfish with a tail. The tail goes down your throat, and you can breathe underwater.
Yeah, that was vicious. So,
trying to think what those were called. I don't remember, but that's why my father stopped reading the series, because the Yuzong Vong freaked him out. So,
sure, yeah. Well, and I like the way though the stuff that you were just talking about, Ryan. It's not just background for his story, but it's also just good world building. Sometimes these books in the EU are fun just because you're sitting around and living and breathing within the world of Star Wars that we never saw on screen. And so I found it loads of fun, just nice to just sit around and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of what you have when he goes to Corellia.
Mhm.
Obviously, so Merrick's has been kidnapped. Merrick's has been kept in stasis. The entire idea of her being kidnapped and like held there, we'll get to that later. I guess like the
Yeah.
purpose
Mhm.
for all of it, the impetus behind it, whatever. But Corin's still taking time. This is obviously going to take a while. He goes out like for a night on the town with his grandpa. Basically, they go to a bar and drink shit. But he's kind of rediscovering his history as a Jedi, and just as his family, because a lot of stuff was hidden from him to keep him safe during the Jedi Purge. But he goes back to their adventure. They set him up with an identity. It's like Genis Idonian. Do you remember what his name is?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what his idea is, he knows that the Invids kidnapped Mirix, so he needs to get the leader of the Invids, Tavira. I don't know what's her first name. Her last name's Tavira.
Leonia
Tavira needs to get close to her to find out where his wife is being held. She happens, like a lot of the leaders in Star Wars, to be fucking attractive. A lot of the female leaders all tend to be hot, and all tend to want to fuck everything else around them as well.
Femme fatales.
Yeah, exactly. Which isn't a bad thing. But he needs to get in with them. His plan is to use his piloting skills, use what he knows, go undercover like he used to do in Corsac, and use his piloting skills to go up the ranks and gain influence with this group of pirates, the Invids. And I don't know. He's just kind of doing his own thing. You get some interesting dilemmas for him morally, as he doesn't want to kill people, but he does kill some people.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I mean when Luke taking him to be a Jedi and like, hey, come train to be a Jedi, even though you're filled with like rage and anger and like you're very upset and scared right now. Maybe it wasn't the best thing to do, but that's what they did. Corrin works his way up the ranks. There is eventually a part where he has to battle Rogue Squadron, because keep in mind, if he had just stayed with the New Republic government, he may have very well have come to the same result of finding Mirix at around the same time.
Oops.
But he didn't want to wait for that. So they encounter, as part of this force that he's trying to infiltrate, they encounter Rogue Squadron. So he tries to set it up. So he's like, hey guys, don't attack the X-Wings. Just try to disable all the other ships so that the X-Wings can't just leave them unprotected. This is like his way to be like, please don't. First of all, we're going to get wiped out. But two, I don't want you to hurt anybody that I know. He encounters Gavin, he encounters Tycho, and those things are awesome, especially the Tycho battle, because whole explanation of how Tycho's mind works. Because now that Corrin is like able to use the Force to sense these things, he kind of senses Tycho's mind and understands the way he works. And it's like this box. This is one of the coolest things. He's like, here's this box, this 3-dimensional space. If he's tracking a target, this is this box of possible things that they could do. And here are all the other different things that could happen if they went that way. And by like process of elimination, he's able to kind of predict what people are going to be doing.
Yes, like a chess game, the way that your mind has to work with chess. I thought that was a fantastic moment.
Yep.
It's interesting how it's explained like that.
Yeah. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Does anybody else want to talk?
No, you're just going through the plot.
Yeah,
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely dark. The part when he was with all the pirates. It was almost like watching one of those movies, and maybe that was the intent, but one of those movies where someone goes undercover and then they kind of go native, and he kind of almost loses himself at a few points, like again when he was attracted to Tavira and stuff like that. It was very dark, I remember, and this time around as well.
Mhm.
Just very, I don't know. It felt kind of weird because this guy was just at a Jedi Academy and now he's like killing people. Like, how do you come back from that? So
Now he did everything he could to
Yes.
not. I will say that, like in most cases,
he didn't enjoy it. Yeah.
right. But the whole idea is he needs to gain enough notoriety to be welcomed on board to Vera's, the Invidious, I believe is the name of her Imperial Star Destroyer. He's trying to do that, but the other way to get close to her is also just to kind of gain her favor and be her fuck toy. So that's also an option. And he struggles with that. And at one point, so he has kind of a rivalry with Remart. Is that the name of the character?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Remart. And that all kind of comes into play when they encounter these slaves. They happen to be Kamasi slaves. Now, we get introduced to Elgos Akla, who becomes pretty important for a lot of different things. But Corrin comes and saves his life, as well as those of his other Kamasi. And in turn, Elgos saves him from when Remart tries to kill him. And that results in him giving him kind of like a life debt. In a way, because Corrin's like, listen, I want to take this guy as my slave. That's why I want to save him. In reality, he didn't really want to do that. He was just kind of using that. But since there ended up being a fight, Elgos was like, listen, for this story to work, you need to come back with me. I need to be your servant like you were talking about. I'm willing to do that after everything that you just did to save us. So he does, and it works out because Corrin gets even more notoriety and gets even closer to Vera. Then you kind of see that Corrin wants to accelerate things a little bit, and you get to this this Jedi campaign that he does on this planet. And if I skip anything, feel free to let me know, guys. I'm just kind of like going over it in my head. But you get to this point where Corrin's like, listen, I need to scare the shit out of these people. I need to be more closely in tune with their security policies. And a way I can do that is if I act as a rogue Jedi, undercover. If I act as a rogue Jedi and terrify the populace and say, I'm here to fuck you guys up. And that's exactly what he does. He uses his abilities for force projection. He uses these Jedi abilities acquired to kind of start fucking up the pirates and start getting Tavira to freak out a little bit. And some of it culminates in this trap that ends up getting set for him when this huge warehouse essentially explodes when he's in there, and he has to use his force absorption abilities to kind of absorb all the energy from the explosion. And since he needs to release that, he puts like this image into everybody's mind of this like scary Jedi, basically puts a message out there. Hey, I'm here. I run this town. Deal with it. What do you guys think about that scene?
Well, I think he was able to do that because he had the power of absorbing all that energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at least it's explained a little bit that way.
Now he didn't do it quick like he did. He all his clothes got burned off, so he was just fucking naked.
So
he was just naked, and he's like obviously super tired after all that happens, and he's just like wandering the streets. And Elgos is like, "Oh fuck, you're drunk again, are you?" Wraps him up. But you find out, I guess we haven't really talked about this. Corrin has, and this is a plot convenience. There's no doubt. It just so happens I met this guy. But at the Jedi Academy, Corrin has a vision of being his grandfather on this face-off with these like dark Jedi, which you find out later are the Jensari. And it's him. He's in his grandfather's eyes, and he's with a Kamasi and another random Jedi. It turns out that Elgos that memory was passed to him. Kamasi had this, it's called like Memni or something.
Yep.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but it is essentially this ability that Kamasi have to kind of imprint their memories and share their memories with other people. And one of the memories that got shared with Elgos was his father or grandfather or uncle or something. I think it was his uncle. His uncle was there with Corrin's grandfather. So you'll see that whole scene actually play out later, but you basically have this situation where Corrin's grandfather, he witnesses him, he feels him in a fight with this Jensari, and he gets killed. He gets stabbed through the fucking heart.
After what, like, doesn't he get like a rock thrown to his head?
Yeah, he gets a rock.
So, yeah.
He gets a rock
by
thrown.
Nico Tyrus.
Yeah, Nico Tyrus, right.
The
And
answer.
he gets a rock thrown at his head or something. He loses his weapon, and he's like, because he can't use telekinesis, he like dives for his weapon, but he gets stabbed through the heart with a lightsaber. And as he's kind of dying, he uses his force absorb ability, absorbs the energy from the lightsaber, and uses it to telekinetically fucking crush Nico, the guy who killed him.
That's got to be like one of the most unique endings to a force fight I've ever seen. That's just cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see it in a cool way played out in the trailer for Star Wars: The Old Republic with Satele Shan. She does the very similar thing, except she doesn't get stabbed, but she's able to block the lightsaber and absorb that energy and kind of do a very similar thing, then unleash a powerful blast. So you do kind of see a similar thing play out there that Michael Stackpole came up with 12 years before that trailer aired, which I think is pretty cool.
Actually, Tutamis, I think, well, besides that, I think Tutamis first appeared in The Last Command, right?
Who?
The Tutamis.
Absorb energy.
Yeah, the absorbed energy. That first appeared in The Last Command, right? By, I think,
in Empire Strikes Back when Han shoots Vader.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I meant like the first term of the word.
Oh, no, that I think that was like in the role-playing Force Skills in 87.
Where did it happen in Last Command?
I'd have to find it. I think that's what it was called in The Last Command.
Let
me see if I can find it. I think we talked about it. However, I think that stream is lost now. Because
I think we've all slept since then too.
Yeah. You guys can continue talking. I'm gonna.
And it's those little moments and those unique fights that also make a lot of this so engrossing. It's I hate to go to the trilogy that shall not be named, but where they just kind of sat and waved around lightsabers, and then you've got this
swinging them like baseball bats.
Yeah, exactly. Swinging them like I would if I were trying to do it, like little kids going, "Oops! Oh my gosh! I've got a deadly weapon. What do? I'll try to hack it." But this truly brings it all to the next level, and it's engaging, and you're kind of like, "Did they just do that? That was awesome."
Well, and if it's not Stackpole or Alston, any kind of combat, whether it's in space or personal, is pretty boring to read. I don't even think Zahn was very good at it, but if those two guys are writing that, it's usually pretty interesting. I'm rereading Betrayal right now, and I don't know why I had forgotten, but I had forgotten how awesome of a writer Alston was. R.I.P. But yeah, it's such a great book. Like any type of space combat's awesome, any type of hand-to-hand. I don't get bored reading it. But if I'm reading someone else, it's like, gosh, just can this scene be over? So, and that's...
And we'll skip it.
It's pretty evident in this book how great Stackpole was at doing that. And it reminds me of when he wrote his Battletech books. And that's why I think they hired him for X-Wing. He was really good in the Battletech books at writing action like that. So
yeah. So that kind of works out, and his plan to kind of do this works out. He gets kind of put in charge of a lot of security and everything like this, but one thing he didn't really account for was the Jensari, who kind of just pop out of nowhere randomly. And he's trying to do some things. He's trying to get some victims to basically be scared and just to kind of amp the fear up. Again, this is Corran as a Jedi using his Jedi skills to make an entire city fear him, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of weird shit. A lot of moral ambiguity. And as he thinks he's setting a trap for these people, it turns out it's a fucking trap for him. And it's 5 Jensari. I think it's 5 Jensari.
Yeah.
And he turns around, he ignites his lightsaber. Oh, by the way, he made a lightsaber made of, it was like a speeder handle and some gems given to him by Tavira because she wants to fuck him.
Bad move.
Interesting.
Bad move, Tavira.
Yeah. And isn't like, God, I'm kind of forgetting. Didn't he like learn didn't he get the instructions for kind of how to make a lightsaber from when he visited his grandfather on Corellia?
Yes,
he got that information.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was in that strong box.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So, at least it's not like he just made a lightsaber because he figured out how. He actually had instructions to do it.
It was like Kieran had come up with some kind of emergency lightsaber building process that only takes like a couple hours as opposed to several days, like when Luke did it before Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
It was so convenient, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty convenient. So
well, and here's the thing that I'll say as well. One of the things that I always thought of for this that's always come back in my mind is when we hear about whatever it is, whether it's in a movie, whether it's in books, or whether it's in like SWOTO or whatever, we kind of get the feeling that you're supposed to use the Force to assemble your lightsaber, right? How do you do that if you can't use telekinesis? Well, it turns out the Halcyons had that figured out because they had to, like, you know what I mean? Otherwise, how are they supposed to assemble a lightsaber? So he does. Does he make his dual face lightsaber here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Corran. There's so many cool things that are introduced in this book that they kind of get lost. So you have a dual phase lightsaber,
3 meters long.
Yeah. So
what would Freud say?
Hey guys, I think he's compensating for something.
Like I said, Freud
it's
would
like
be
getting
proud.
a boner. It's like this long, and then you twist it, and then it extends. So.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's literally how it works. So
yeah. So essentially,
wait, a boner or the lightsaber?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What the hell?
I was going to show my.
I'm sorry.
So you have a normal lightsaber. It will extend out to its normal thing, but then there's essentially you twist your hands right here, and it brings a different crystal into focus that has different properties, and that one is, like Tim said, like 3 meters in length.
3 meters. Whose lightsaber is that, right?
I feel, isn't the crystal that does it? I want to say
Luke's,
that it's
Obi-Wan's.
Nice.
Obi-Wan's.
Oh, yeah,
I want to
yeah,
say that's Master Replicas, right?
That's Force effects.
Force effects. God.
Fuck you.
Oh,
Hey, listen, you got a much better looking one up on your shelf by Hasbro.
I do.
Let's be real here.
Come here, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's a badass one.
Yeah.
This one's pretty cool. This one's the Revan lightsaber.
Did you ever do a review on that or no?
Yeah.
I did an opening. I did an unboxing of it on this channel. It got like fucking 1,500 views actually on this channel.
I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah,
I really don't, because I knew about that ahead of time. I knew you were getting that. But
I thought about putting it on the main channel. I was like, I don't know. We'll see. And I probably should have done it. So I didn't think it would do that well. I thought it would be like
Honestly,
whatever.
my one lightsaber, it's a new Canon book. I did a review of that, like
You did unboxing, right?
yeah, well, unboxing slash kind of review of it, just kind of give my critiques. By the way, Daniel Wallace commented on that, so the author commented on that. That brought me like 500 views, I think is what it's sitting at right now. I don't know,
Nice.
but
That's awesome.
Wallace follows
Yeah.
me on Twitter, so yeah. So I posted, I'm like, great. I have Wallace in the comment section, me like picking apart this book and saying how it could be. Honestly, the thing was like just the formatting could be better on the graphic design team, not so much as writing. But
I know we'll never get it, but if they offered like a Corran Horn lightsaber, I'd buy it in a second.
somebody did a custom Cornhorn lightsaber recently. I think the Custom Saber Shop showed it off on their Facebook page about a month or two back. Somebody did.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's incredible, like the people that create shit. Like I follow Space Windu. I'm subscribed to his channel, and he does like they do custom like lightsaber building and shit. Wish I knew how to do any of that because it's really cool. But yeah, I mean, I've got my Obi-Wan, I got my Revan replicas, so I'm pretty happy. But back to the story, back to iJedi. Corran's in a corner. He's kind of fucked. He's got 5 Jensari that all have different colored blades in front of him, and he's like, "Who the fuck are these people? I'm about to die." Just like a show we saw, someone came to the rescue. Another lightsaber ignites behind them. It's Luke Skywalker, and he says, "No one has to die today." And you're like, "Oh shit, it's Luke." And him and Corran pretty easily dispatched the Jensari. Now, I guess this is a good time to talk about it in the EU, especially in like this kind of era. There's a lot of these like Jedi spin-off sects going about.
Yeah,
Now,
a lot of it.
Now, the one thing is the Jensari are very clearly not very skilled. Because you have to imagine these people have been training a long ass time. When we get to the end of this, their fucking leader, Corran, beats her. Corran's been training for 10 weeks. So I do think it's very evident that they're not very strong in the Force. They're not very well trained. They're very amateurish.
Do you know like where the Jensari kind of like verge off from the Jedi? Do you know how they you know that Nico Tyrus was a dark acolyte, right?
Yeah, he was an acolyte at one time, yeah. And then but I don't know I don't know, like, is he the one that started the Jensari?
Yeah.
Jensari.
He kind of broke off, I think, from Dooku, or Dooku's like, hey, I'll give you this Sith knowledge in exchange for your services or whatever. And then that kind of spiraled into his own kind of sect there. And then you also have, as Ryan was saying, you also have like the Altesian Jedi from, what was it, Children of the Jedi? That kind of thing, which was kind of created as it was technically retcon. Like that whole thing was retcon into a separate entity.
Well, you have like the Baron Do, you have the Ang T, you obviously have the Falanasi, which is kind of what Corran is. Like,
yeah,
he has a lot of Falanasi skills.
The prophets of the dark side.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of these like minor, and that's always kind of been a little bit of a problem for me. These offshoots. Why didn't Palpatine and Vader stomp them down?
And they did try with the Jensari.
And he did trap the witches on Dathomir.
Right. But to me, you would have thought that I feel like Palpatine would have tried to take care of them. Maybe they just weren't significant for him, significant enough for him to do so. But
the Baron Do were essentially just seers, right? They really had no like formal, military or whatever to really oppose Palpatine. The prophets themselves kind of became like subservient to Palpatine, along with I think the Sorcerer Rand did too, right?
Well, like the Baron Doe, like that, none of them were really military organizations. Neither were the Jedi until the war. To be fair,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I should say they're not very organized, and they don't like preach violence. They're more monks than they are. They keep to themselves more than trying to defend the people or whatever.
true. But it should be said that when we get introduced to the Baron Doe, the first thing that they have to do to even enter their temple to talk to someone is fight.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know? So that is still that is still part of their culture, at least. Maybe not violence per se, but definitely something like that. So it's always been interesting to me. I think they addressed it a little bit. I'd have to reread Fate of the Jedi. I feel like they did some like lip service with like, yeah, Palpatine didn't consider them a threat or something, which is why I didn't stomp them down. But that's a different story. Luke comes in and saves the day.
Yep.
He's like, how'd you know I was here? And Luke's like, I knew it. He's like, I knew you would be here. I just didn't know when. And then Oral shows up, who's Corrin's wingmate, and Oral's like, Oral knew when. So the idea of how they found him, I think, is a little bit contrived.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt wants to know why he's never invited to your live streams.
Me? I invited him to my one live stream when I get around to doing the novels with the Clone Wars timeline. I invited him on that. So
There you go, Matt.
Yeah, like literally once I've read all of those like novels, I've got more to talk about with him because Matt's more of a novel guy than he is like comic book or whatever, you know? So I think once I read through a little bit more of the Clone Wars stuff, I can bring forth a better a conversation.
Yeah. I think he's teasing you though.
I know that too. I mean, Matt's such a troll to me. I don't get it.
So what do you guys think about Luke's explaining away the Jensari? Oh, it's just another viewpoint, another Jedi viewpoint. I think that's something I was really uncomfortable with this time around. They really went too far into the gray Jedi territory, which I don't think should exist. I think it's okay for someone to say I am, but it should never be portrayed as legitimate because there's no such thing as a legitimate gray Jedi.
Yeah, I never saw that gray Jedi. Like, I never legitimized that in of itself. That's always just kind of a fan term or whatever, more so than it is an actual thing. I mean, gray Jedi do exist. I mean,
but have they ever actually said that they exist?
No, I mean, gray Jedi. I think it was one of the RPG books that first used that terminology from. I think Wizards.
I think it was Knights of the Old Republic, if I'm not mistaken.
It might have been Knights of the Republic, but it was fleshed out more with the role-playing game. But it was like Jolie Bindo.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
it was just like it's been so overused and so misinterpreted what gray Jedi actually means. It's just a Jedi who doesn't follow the Council. Essentially, is what it is. They don't follow the tenets of the Council, and they're a little bit more relaxed on the code than the traditional Jedi are. Like you could call the Atlesian Jedi essentially gray Jedi. It's not. However, gray Jedi isn't a specific order of Jedi. It's more of a broad term of.
It's more of perhaps it's a descriptive thing.
Yeah,
but it's not. I don't recall it ever really being like a thing as far as something explicitly spoken of. But there are the different groups, like Ryan was just saying. And when you say that you're not exactly comfortable, help me out here, Ryan. Or did I hear you correctly? What do you mean by just the way that Luke just seemed to be so blasé about it? Do I understand correctly?
No, it was almost.
It was just like Luke had a vision or something. He's like, I knew I needed to be here if you embraced your Jedi ways or something. Yeah. And he's like, I just didn't know when. And Oral's like, I'm a Finesman. I knew when. You just know when to look, but I didn't know
Mhm.
where. It was just a little convenient for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're talking about the coincidence aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's tons of stuff in that. Though, to be fair, that's kind of always been a lot about the way
Mhm.
Star Wars has been the whole space opera, soap opera thing that they always kind of work together. I must admit, when Luke Skywalker showed up, I was a fangirl. What can I say? I loved it because I love me some Luke. So
So Matt says, "I Jedi reminds me of a straw. It sucks." Listen, Matt,
It's not that bad.
I will. It is very easy to say that in one book, in one act of one book, Michael Stackpole did more to explain life at the Jedi Academy, more to humanize these people at the Jedi Academy, more to explain how they learned the Force than Kevin J. Anderson did in 3 fucking books. Like that, to me, like if you like, and we even said on here that we all think that Corran was far too important in this entire thing, and maybe knew a little more than he probably should have.
Mhm.
But I think that what he did at the Jedi Academy shows really where Kevin J. Anderson was lacking in this trilogy that's called the Jedi Academy trilogy for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
Because it's just a story about Admiral Dala and the fucking Maw and the Sun Crusher.
Right.
So,
yeah, that and that in a way is partly why this book does kind of work, is because there were so many gaps. There were gaps to be filled.
Yep.
Two-pack right there says, what was...
Two-pack?
Two-pack. I don't know. It says, was
Wait. Do you know what the last name is?
Shakur? I don't know.
Tupac? You know who Tupac is?
Yeah, I know who Tupac is, but it's... I don't listen to his music, all right?
All right. Why?
All right? Because I'm not into rap. I'm not into that kind of music. But he's like... Is Dooku considered a great Jedi before he was fully... No, because Dooku still followed the code, and he still listened to the council. He just didn't like obeying their rules, and he did disobey them from time to time, just like Qui-Gon did. Qui-Gon was subservient to still the council, and he was more relaxed on the Jedi code, but he still followed it. Like,
my problem is... My problem with the Grey Jedi, there are some individual cases of Jedi being gray. There is not some Grey Jedi organization.
Right.
It's not like someone who chooses, oh, well, I'm just going to be a Grey Jedi.
Right.
You know, that's like a video game thought process, right? That's like someone who wants to have Kyle Katarn be able to use Force protection and also Force lightning, right? That like I feel like that's really where so many people kind of went with that. The idea of having a character that doesn't have to strictly be light side or dark side.
It's someone who's not... You're essentially creating a character which is not bound by limitations that can do anything they want.
Yeah.
On the light side spectrum and the dark side spectrum. That's what it is. Is that they want a character that's all powerful that can do everything. That's not how it works.
I don't have a problem with
just like a certain Mary Sue from the sequel trilogy.
I don't have a problem with Grey Jedi as someone who doesn't follow the Jedi Order, but I do have a problem with someone who is a quote-unquote Grey Jedi that uses both sides of the Force, because you can't. Because once you start using dark side powers and stuff, then you're going to go to the dark side. So you can't be gray.
Yeah.
You're
objectively evil, Evan.
Quinlan Voss, though. He knew Force lightning.
Well, Luke and Jaina use Force lightning, so...
There is like the Force lightning that's not the dark side power.
But
it's like,
what's it called? Electric Justice or something like that?
Yeah. It's electric judgment. And now, because literally, Volfe, like this in the Darkness comic, he's like, yeah, that's Force lightning. Like the Dark Jedi's like, yeah, that's Force lightning. So you're already been corrupted.
But I'm more talking about like decisions you make and what you use the Force for. Once you start doing like evil stuff with the Force, you're going down the dark path,
Mhm.
and thus
Right.
you can't be gray. So,
I guess I fall more of the force of the potentium kind of thing. It's where the force isn't necessarily good or bad. Like you know how the George Lucas thing is. So I follow that, but it's like the force isn't inherently good or bad. The person who uses it is.
That's how Jason Solo became a Sith Lord.
I was about ready to say heresy, heretic.
Yeah.
Now that's why Jason Solo
that's
is a badass.
Vergere's
Like that is
ruse.
that is literally like that was a trap from a Sith. Like to basically spin it that way to lead you to that corruption. You even see Luke, right? Because in the Darkness trilogy, Luke has adopted this Vergere/Jason way of thinking that, okay, well, I guess I'll use this dark side energy to create a force projection of the Jade Shadow or whatever it was at that point. And it, like, you see it take its toll on him,
right?
Because he's using it, and he realizes that they shouldn't be doing this. He does come to that realization eventually that it's not okay for them to be using these dark powers, because it will lead them down that path. But anyway, Electric Justice, Electric Judgment.
It's judgment.
Judgment,
That sounds like an 80s pop song.
Yeah, well, that's how you get cool things like that. I think really the reason it was created was so they could have that cover with Luke Skywalker using.
That's
Force
one of
lightning.
the Swarm War books, right?
Yeah. I think it might be. I don't know if it's the finale or not, but anyway, to get back on this actual subject of I, Jedi. So Luke shows up. They capture the Jensari, and Luke, does he just have Ilsamari with him?
Yeah.
He just has Ilsamari with him. Corinth comes up with this clever plan to interrogate them, since it'll be kind of hard to get a read on their minds or break their minds or anything like that because of their force abilities. They have them unconscious, and when they wake up, they're in a Ilsamari bubble. And Corin and Luke pretend like they're kind of communicating, and Luke Skywalker's like the silent bad cop, while Corin's like, listen, I really want to be nice to you. We just need information. That's what we need. And it's a really cool scene, actually, I think, where you see them kind of play off each other and get the information to know where Mirex is being held. And then Luke, Elgos, Oral, and Corin all head there. They go to that planet, and they head there to free Mirex. They fight their way through stormtroopers and everything, and eventually find Mirex in stasis, and she wakes up. There's a nice reunited thing. She doesn't seem to have any effects. It's basically like a Jedi healing trance that she's been in for weeks. Thank God her muscles aren't atrophied. Nothing's wrong with her. She just is fine. And they have a nice kiss and everything. Then
I love the way that it mirrored Sleeping Beauty, didn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah, as Luke was doing the Force thing, Corin leaned down to give her true love's kiss.
Yep. And as they're going down and trying to escape, they get confronted again. They get confronted by Jensari, the leader of the Jensari, which, do you guys remember her name? I had it pulled up here.
It's blank on me.
Sari Kar.
Yeah.
Right. And she is basically like, she's like, this is the line of people that killed the person I care about. That was her husband, evidently. Nico was her husband, right? Is that what happened?
No. That doesn't sound right. I think it's her master. Nikos was.
I think it's her master and her husband.
I have to look.
Let's see.
The Sari Car was.
That was a title, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was her husband.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that is why I mean, like, the timelines don't.
No, wait. No, it was Tyrus was not her husband. It's some other person that Tyrus and she had another person, which was her husband. I'm sorry.
Either way, she's upset about the master, who I thought was also her husband. The fact that he died, and at the hands of a Halcyon. So this whole thing has been set up to like get Corrin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you guys interpret this?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How did anyone know? Like, this is what I don't understand. Like,
such a Gary
It
Steele.
was so elaborate.
yeah, like the whole thing was set up for him to go there. But how did they know that it was him? You know,
This is almost as intricately thought out as one of Palpatine's plans.
yeah, but anyway, the fact is that they're there. Luke takes on all the students while Corrin fights the leader, which was an interesting thing. But the thing is, they're basically a good match, which is what I mean by the Jensari are clearly just fucking pieces of shit. They suck.
Yeah.
Like, because this person's been training since the Clone Wars, and is not a match for Corrin, who had 10 weeks of training. And it's not saying like Corrin's great or anything. He's not. Like, I think they make that very clear that it's not like he's just super good. You know, they suck.
Right.
And the way he actually ends up winning is by using an illusion to project Nico, which is just like instinctual by him, and is able to win the match against her by distracting her. Then Tavira is like, "You were the Jedi the whole time? I'm gonna kill all of you." Spurned lover, which I think he neglects telling Merrick's how much he wanted to fuck her. But
Conveniently.
yeah, but then they're in a situation where they have an Imperial Star Destroyer, Deuce, coming at them, and the Errant Venture is about to intercede. And the Errant Venture isn't well armed as most Star Destroyers, so they would probably get destroyed. They would get annihilated. And Corrin uses his Alter Mind ability to connect to Tavira and like convince her that this entire thing is a trap and that the Jedi are hiding a fleet there, and it makes her like focus harder. And she sees Corrin projects the image of a Super Star Destroyer. Thank you. And she's like, "It's a fucking trap. Get out of there!" And they run away. And
literally, everyone else on the bridge is like, "What is wrong with this lady? I don't see the Super Star Destroyer."
Yeah, which all kind of gets brought back in Legacy of the Force when Luke does that to Jason to get him to freak out. So
I thought that was pretty cool. I really did.
Yeah. So basically, then the book ends by the book ends by Elgos showing the Sarikar what actually happened that day, and the fact that
Memni, yep.
Yeah, the memory, the fact that the Jensari were kind of assholes, and like that's why they were there. It wasn't like they just killed her master in cold blood. You know, he killed Halcyon, who then killed him. You know, so and that's kind of how everything gets resolved.
Listen, Jedi right people who used to use dark side wrong.
What's that?
Jedi right people who use the dark side wrong.
Right, and that's basically the book. Now, I will say that I had this book up in probably like my top 5 stories of all time before we reread it again. I would have to move it down a little bit after this rereading.
The thing is, it just doesn't feel. It does retcons, and I'm fine with retcons. It just doesn't feel like. I don't know. Again, I saw a comment here. It's that a good portion of this book is just piggybacking off of previous material. It's the Jedi Academy trilogy. It's kind of treading that ground again, I should say. But there's also a good section of this book which is new and unique. But it also treads off of some of the Rogue Squadron stuff, which I know how much Teresa, you want to read the Rogue Squadron stuff before we got into this, correct?
Oh, I read the Rogue Squadron back before you were born. No, I
I
read.
mean, I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I read the Rogue Squadron and then this I Jedi in the '90s, as I said at the beginning. And here's the deal: is I think perhaps Ryan, for me personally, because I felt a little bit like you did, was because we didn't have the new Jedi Order, Legacy of the Force, and all of that. So when you're
Prequels.
looking at the Bantam stuff in the '90s, yeah, it really was way right up there, and it really kicked butt. I think I think perhaps we got a bit spoiled by what came a bit later.
I agree.
You know.
Yeah, and that's the irony is Matt Wilkins, which Matt, check your email. Like
Oh, great.
Matt loves the Bantam era, but he hates this book. That's like the weird thing to me.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, and me and Matt could probably go all down. Like, what's better, the Bantam era or the Del Rey era? I'm more Del Rey era of Star Wars than I am, Bantam. Even though Bantam's done a lot, introduced all these stories.
Del Rey's better. Del Rey's better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Del Rey, here's the thing with Del Rey, though, is that it has the benefit of, being alongside the prequels and having that knowledge along with it.
Correct.
And, I think that they were able to, maintain continuity a lot stronger, under Lucas licensing at the time and under these authors than doing it because I'm going to be honest here, the Bantam era, there were connections, but some of them, authors did their own thing from time to time and weren't always connected, Case in point, you can make this book connect with this other thing, talk with this other author, phone him up, yada, but you'd have to go out of your way to do that, essentially. But they kept to themselves. Some of them kept to themselves.
And I definitely would have to move this book down too, because so much came out since it came out, right? That was better, and it seems like books progressively got better as they went along. There's probably a couple of exceptions there, but think about Luceno's books, like Darth Plagueis. Did anything come out that was even close to being that good in the late '90s? Let's say there's no way.
No, I think New Jedi Order, people are split on it because it's a little too dark. Some people are pussies. I get it.
They're a little sadomasochism in their book.
Yeah, Legacy of the Force, top
amazing
tier.
Yes,
Legacy of the Force.
Yep.
Fate of the Jedi, I do think is a little step down from Legacy of the Force,
it's a little
but
weird,
it's still great. Fate of the Jedi, they got to the point. This is how I've felt. They got to the point where, all right, they told New Jedi Order the fate of the fucking galaxy. That is the scariest it's ever been galactic wide. Not just, the Empire is going to take over and we're all going to be under the thumb of this fascist regime. Yeah. No, New Jedi, they're going to wipe humanity and the world as the galaxy as you know it from existence and remake it in their way. That's the scariest it's gotten. Then you have, Legacy of the Force, which is a little bit smaller, but it's a story that is very
smaller, and it goes back to its roots, I think.
Right. I agree.
It was very personal too.
Yes.
Deeply personal with characters you really fucking care about.
Yep.
And in reality, Jason doesn't really take over the galaxy, but that is his end goal. And he kind of gets his leg cut out from under him before he can really fully achieve it. But then Fate of the Jedi, I feel like they felt like they needed to do something big. And so you bring this force entity that is more powerful than anything we could ever possibly imagine.
That's essentially God of this universe. And it's
and by the way, we found this entire planet full of Sith. So
yeah. Which we just didn't see before. Just entirely a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and sure, the Legacy of the Jedi, they had the ultimate heartbreaking story of two twins.
Yes.
Twins just having to kill your twin. Oh my gosh.
And then, where would you rank Swarm War and all that stuff, though, Ryan?
A little lower. I don't think that that's a great. That is what it was supposed to be, which is a bridge between two massive stories.
Yeah, and honestly, the thing with me is like I like the trilogy format better than having 9 whole books to tell a story. Like is that me or
Well, you got to think of it this way. Like now, I think didn't Troy Denning write kind of all those books at once and then they released them fairly close together? Is that how it worked?
Yeah.
What I loved about what they started doing with Legacy and what they continue with Fate of the Jedi is they had 3 authors who rotated. So every 4 months you had a book coming out. So each one wrote 1 a year, and they were all a little different. Like you knew that Alston was going to focus more on the characters that Alston was a little more familiar with, like Wedge. Wedge was going to be a part of the Alston.
So
novel.
great. Yeah.
When you had
Travis.
Travis was going to Travis focused on the Boba Fett stuff and the Mandalorian stuff.
Yep.
And you got to know more about those characters when that happened. So I dug it. I really love.
And that's fine. You should have the own flavor to that. But to me, it's more of it goes on for quite a long time to tell this one story. Even though you're going deeper into it, I think that you could have comics that flesh it out more. You could have short stories that flesh it out more. And they tried to do that with Invasion, with the New Jedi Order stuff.
And no one read them.
Yeah,
that's why I got canceled. Good theory, Evan.
It's because I think if you release comics about that though at that time, it would have drawn more appeal. However, doing it 10 years after that big event took place is just, I don't know. I think you've lost that audience. It's fallen off there. It's a bit too late there, I guess.
What was I going to say? I think that overall, I don't even know why we started talking about this, but
I think it was my fault. I said that this is perhaps why iJedi is not necessary. It moved down because of the high quality of books we were talking about.
Right, that's what we were going on about.
Yeah, and I agree. When I read this initially, it was probably early 2000s is probably when I first read this book, if I had to guess. So, that's before we saw, before we had completed New Jedi Order, before any of these great stories that came after, before the Darth Bane trilogy, before Plagueis, or a lot of these channels. I'd have to move it down. I do still rank it higher than the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you're talking about writing, the way it was done, I think it's way better than that. What about you, Evan?
So I don't know. This book is just, I don't know, it's interesting, but it's.
Whoa.
Oh.
That wasn't me. I didn't do that.
Oh, I thought you did that on purpose.
When one shows up.
Upgraded your show right now. Hi, folks. We interrupt this program to get rid of Evan and bring in Common Sense. Much more interesting and better looking me. Hello, how are you?
Hey,
hold on. Listen.
Oh, I'm just so excited.
Nothing. It's beautiful.
Evan's back.
I didn't mean to be mean.
I didn't do that. You literally just dropped right as I was about to add Matt. I promise to God I didn't do anything.
Matt, how much did you pay him? Matt, how much did you freaking pay this man?
Evan, you had to re-enter the thing, didn't you?
Yeah.
I didn't remove you from the stream. Like your shit just timed out or something.
I don't know what happened. Obviously, Matt has a.
What happened is he had a spike in viewers for just a short time.
Right.
Now we're back down.
First up, hi, Miss Martin Muses.
Hi.
Hello, Tim. I don't know if I know you.
Hi.
Hello.
Tim's a great guy.
Tim is an awesome dude. Tim is one of those guys. Like I think Tim and Matt would actually get along really well. You know Matt, don't you, Tim?
No.
You don't know Matt's channel?
Really? You
Oh
don't
my-
know
I
Matt
don't think we know each other.
See, you really need to. So
Yes.
Matt is basically where I started really getting into expanded universe videos
Yeah.
because when Disney bought Star Wars and they started decanonizing the EU, like Matt was one of the guys that was speaking out about it the entire time.
Yeah.
And so when I started my channel, it was funny. Like I started my channel, I got Matt Wilkins, like 4,000 subscriber Matt Wilkins, and I'm like, Matt, I'd really love if you came and talked to me. And he came on my channel. It was like meeting a hero of mine. Now I got 10 times the subs he does. So,
I'm
now
at
he's begging to get on my channel.
700.
Yeah.
If I had Matt on my channel, watch my channel numbers just spike like by 10. Not even
Yeah,
that.
but you never invite me.
Yeah, I sent you that email. I will pull it up.
I don't know.
Oh,
Miss Martin, would you like to join me on a stream sometime?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd be so happy to have you.
Besides me.
Yeah, and
I got
I'll-
asked to come on Matt's streams. He doesn't.
What's
invite
the
me.
name
I
of your
Tim,
channel?
Tim,
there?
it's the name of the channel's Matt Wilkins because I created it back
Oh.
when YouTube was new and you didn't have a fancy name back then.
Gotcha.
So
But Tim, you're welcome. Tim, you're welcome to come on too.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Matt helps run theexpandeduniverse.com.
Oh, that site. Yeah, with the yellow logo. Is that the one?
That's it.
Yellow and red, right? Yeah, I've done that before.
I still need to do an article on there. I told Chris I'd do an article. I just haven't gotten around to it.
You've been doing too many videos.
No, it's called Work Videos and Reading Star Wars Books. By the way, somebody asked what the status of the Twin Sons Foundation. As far as I'm aware, right now it's just kind of like halted, right, Matt?
Right now they're working on a few things. Nothing they can talk about right now, but they are trying to make. I mean, they have money raised. They're ready to go. Books bought. Hospitals right now are locked down, and you can't really get into schools right now either. Those are the two tightest places right now. They're not accepting guests, and they're trying to find some different avenues right now. They just haven't heard back from those. In fact, I was supposed to text Brian today, so I'll talk to him a little bit and get an update. But hopefully, I hope that there's a new idea they have, which if it works, it'll be really cool. But yeah, Twin Sons is still kicking it around, so they're doing good. They just right now they've had to put all their little drives on hold, but they have the books ready to go.
Yeah, I think it's been a year since they ordered the last thing, because literally I don't think they've been able to do anything.
Yeah, their last fundraiser met their goal, and then they went ahead and bought the books because like everyone, we were told three weeks and we'd be through with this, and so they were just going to hold off, but still bought the books to get ready to go, and then now it just kept going like it is. So right now they're just in a holding pattern. They have every intention to give out those books and to start raising funds more. Like I said, they're trying to come up with some alternatives right now, which I think are very good. Just they're just looking at just what's possible. But hey, you never know. I'm really hoping their new they got something that we're working on. If it works out, then you'll get to hear a lot about it. But right now they're still kicking. Yeah.
Yep. And just a quick summary. If you don't know what Twin Sons Foundation is, they raise money, they buy expanded universe books, and they give them to kids, whether it's at community centers, children's hospitals, schools, get them in libraries, things like that. So,
and they've teamed up with the 501st on this too. The 501st heard about this. They want it in. So the 501st will come with them. They'll dress up stormtroopers, Darth Vader, nice. you name it. And they go out there and hand the books. And man, the kids' faces, they're like, this is great. I did one drive at a local school in town, and I went into the school library, and all these kids, I felt like the Pied Piper. They were just like, what do you do? What's that? Is that this Star Wars book? Is that a Star Wars book? And there were some Star Wars comics in there too. They were really excited to see. And it was really awesome. That was a really cool day to do that. Because, I mean, kids love Star Wars, at least the old Star Wars, the expanded universe. They were excited to read it.
Right.
And the teacher who I kind of interrupted because her class took place in the school library. I didn't know there were doubles. And I was kind of just hogging up her time. She went, no, that's fine. She went, yeah, I've read those books. I went, you've read these books? And she went, yeah, I've read. And she started naming off Expanded Universe books. So like, whoa. So she was a big Expanded Universe fan, was happy to see those in the library. So yeah, pretty cool stuff.
And you know these guys from Star Wars Timeline.net, right? They're the ones doing these. I can't wait for these Hungarian Han Solo books that they're translating. I don't care if they're official or not. They sound like they're pretty solid, so that'll be fun to read.
My friend Joe runs that, and he's fantastic. We've been looking for a translator for the past few years. In fact, we've gotten 3 translators who said they agreed to do it and then just fell off the map because it takes a long time to get it done. And all 3 of them said, hey, yeah, I really don't have the time. Okay, that's fine. We understand. But we had 3 people say, I'm up for the challenge. And then they realized, oh, this is more than just throwing it through Google Translate. You know, it's because the words have to be spun a little bit because obviously their dialect, the way they structure a sentence is different. But, you know, I've read a little bit of the first one. I got to see a little bit of it, and it's okay. The thing is, it's going to be a rough translation. It's not going to be the best, but just like you, Tim, I'm super interested to see what comes out. In fact, Joe is actually working on another book that he was supposed to do a Star Wars Insider 6-part series about the unknown, the weird, the you know.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Places and Cult Encounters is what it is, and he's going to be done with that. He said he hopes by this spring. And so that full edition is going to come out. It's like the Silmarillion of Star Wars. I read an early copy. I will be reading a final version around the first of the year. I think I'm going to be one of the proofreaders.
I still need to grab a physical copy. Is he still doing that, man?
I think he is going to do. I mean, if you backed that project, then you will be getting a physical copy. I also heard there's going to be some kid with an Ewok in it too.
I bet it's you. I bet it's named after you. I bet his name's Wilkins.
Now, I don't know if his name would be that obvious, but I think there will be a character. but the one note I gave him, he did on the first one, he disagreed with, then came back and told me that I was right on that. So overall, it's a really heavy book. You need to have Wikipedia on one hand and that book on the other because he really delves into. You talk about lore. I mean, we're talking about the architects, space angels, all the stuff from the UK Star Wars Weekly magazine. Yeah. All of this stuff, all the West End Games stuff is deeply explored in this. Joe has this uncanny ability to tie in continuity. I mean, seamlessly. He and Rich Hanley, and I'd add Ryan Benham to that.
What about Pina? I'd say Pina's
Abel G. Pina is a brilliant man too. But you look at, I've talked to Ryder a couple of times, and this man for a children's novel, has a stack of study that he does before he writes anything. Because they want to make sure, hey, what can I connect? What's available? I don't have to make something up. What's available out there that I could use? Oh, I could use this. I was talking to Rich Hanley not too long ago, and he was just telling me how he pieced together the his short story from hyperspace, Idiot's Array, if anyone recalls that. It has so much continuity. You don't even know how much. I didn't even know how much continuity was in it until I talked to him.
Yeah, and this is a writer thing I just picked up yesterday, and there's a note in the back of the book, just quoting like things he's referenced from June, like thing.
Oh no, he's really. In fact, on StarWarsTimeline.net, there's on the third Adventures in Hyperspace novel, which was unprinted but out there. Yeah, there's a afterward about all the study and everything, all the research he did. That's why I got mad. And I used to do the videos. Ryan said I used to do videos a long time ago when everyone started calling the EU. It was a mess. It contradicted one another. I was like, no, you're wrong. They said, well, the authors made up everything. I said, there's evidence right here that they did not. And I mean, the evidence is compiling that they didn't fly by the seat of their pants for every story. They made sure, and this is called respecting something that the new Star Wars doesn't do now, respecting the reader. Yep. Meaning, if Tim, you've been reading for years, I'm going to put little Easter eggs in there. It's not going to lose someone like Evan who doesn't read anything. It's going to, I'm using that example, Evan, as a bad example. Okay. It's okay. But I'm just saying that for someone like Tim who's read all this, maybe Tim's read the wrestling games. Then you get a little Easter egg, go, oh, that's from so and so. Yes, that's for you.
Well, here's
Now-
an example from your favorite book, I Jedi. Like one of the pirate groups, one of the pirate groups in this book, they have a ship called the Harm's Way. Get the pun? But it came from Galaxy Guide 9 Fragments from the Rim. So Stackpole was pulling stuff out of West End games and just inserting it, and that kind of stuff is always cool. So
Okay, and yes, West End game stuff has been around since the Bantam era. Does anyone know why?
what do you mean? Has
Because-
it been around? What do you
Because
mean?
George Lucas wanted everyone to
George
use it in their
Lucas
stories.
would send them the West End game.
Oh, yeah.
I love the West
Yes,
End game
yeah.
stuff. And Timothy Zahn said he got all this stuff, and Timothy Zahn, I mean,
3
George
months
was like,
into
"Hey, you
writing,
know
by
what?"
the way.
Say what?
He was already 3 months into writing. Then they sent him the packet, and he's like, "Oh shit, let me back up and add a few things in." Yeah,
Yeah.
Michael Stackpole would have had 5 books written in that time, evidently.
yeah.
And I know we were talking about Troy Denning earlier, but Troy Denning got his start writing for West End Games.
Yeah.
So he's
Alien
very
races.
familiar with that lore, and that's why his stuff is rich in it. And I didn't even know this
Mm-hmm.
until way later, because I didn't get the West End game stuff till way later, and I started reading it over about the time Legacy of the Force was coming out. I was finally getting around to reading the West End game stuff, and I was shocked at how much connected with the expanded universe. I was like, oh my goodness, because I missed so many references in New Jet Order from West End. I missed them all, but I didn't feel like I was missing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I felt
Yeah,
like
it's
it was
like
a great
extra.
story.
It's like extra when you get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
my
it-
parents took me to Disneyland in 1987 summer, and we went in the little gift shop in Star Tours, and they had the first rule book,
Yeah.
and my mom bought it,
Awesome.
for me, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. And then the source book came out, then the Imperial source book, and I'm like, look at all this lore. And it was freaking cool. And then Heir to the Empire came
I
out,
wasn't even
and he's
a glint in
referencing
my
all this stuff.
father's
It was
eye
so
at
cool.
that point.
What'd you
West
say,
End
Ryan?
Games was on top of their game, and you mentioned the Galaxy Guides earlier. Those Galaxy Guides are super interesting.
Yeah,
Shoot,
they are.
Star Wars Adventure Journal's one of my favorite things. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
so wonderful.
I was saying that when you went to Disneyland to get that, I wasn't even a glint in my father's eye yet.
Damn.
Oh gosh.
That's
I'm
crazy.
crazy.
God.
Tim,
I was 11 years
alive,
old.
I was alive and well. I've seen Return of the Jedi 3 times in theaters the first time it came out.
Oh, I saw it, I think 11 times in 83.
Oh!
So.
Yeah.
Because I
saw
got my
all-
grandparents to take me, like several times. My parents, my friends' parents. So we went that many times. I counted it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Why
I
can't
saw all 3 in the movie theater.
Mm.
And
we went the first time my dad took us. He said he'd take us. My dad never went to the same movie twice, but he said he'd take us to this movie again. We were the same way. We tricked our grandmother into taking us without telling him. And then the very next day he went to take us, and my grandmother went, "What movie are y'all watching?" And my dad goes, "Return of the Jedi." And my grandmother looks at me and goes, "Well, baby, wasn't that the movie I just took you to yesterday?" It's like, shut up. But I mean, I seriously, I remember getting down on my knees and pleading with Dad to take us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
my mom said, I thought he did it out of the goodness of his heart. My mom said that he thought it was so good. My dad wanted to see it again. That's
Yeah.
why he took us again.
The
But-
only 2 Star Wars movies I've watched in theater, well, besides the new ones, which throw those the hell out, because
Did you watch the 40th edition Return of Empire Strikes Back? this year?
I watched. Well, I did see that. Yeah, I did.
In
I did
theaters
watch-
just recently?
Yeah.
I watched-
I did that a couple months ago, literally like the week after my ex broke up with me. That was a
Good for you.
bad week.
Yeah, save
Um,
that for your stream. Good for
yeah,
you, though.
yeah,
for going
I
to
know.
Empire Strikes Back.
I know. Revenge
That's
of the
awesome.
Sith was
Well,
probably. I think
It
That
Revenge
is
comes
awesome,
up every
Mr.
stream,
Martin.
Matt. Don't worry.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I was the same, except my mom wanted to see him again. You know, so we'd all go. Like Empire Strikes Back. I remember that.
So
Well, here's the
saw
thing.
I saw the special editions in '97 when they
Nice.
came out, and I remember watching and being like, "This is fucking different than the VHS."
Oh,
we
it's
had.
great.
I cut college class to go see those, but my parents were getting scared in '83 that I was getting obsessed with Star Wars. So they stopped buying me stuff. That's why I don't have a lot of the Power of the Force figures, because I remember them telling me, like, look, you're talking about this too much. You're into this too much. Like, you need to focus on something else, because you're getting obsessed.
They were probably right.
Tim, my parents didn't love
Look at me now.
either,
So
because when we moved, they threw away all of our. They said we were not taking your toys, and there were 13 bags filled with Kenner Star Wars, Thundercats, a little bit of GI Joe, but I mean Silverhawks. All the good stuff was in there, and it got sent out to the trash, and then we moved. It was the day I became a man.
It was the day I became a man.
I wanted nothing to do but slaughter younglings after that happened. It broke me.
I think you and Tim would get along pretty well. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe Tim might be interested in doing some stuff for expanduniverse.com, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
I've been in it since the beginning. I read Splinter of the Mind's Eye when I was probably barely old enough to read. I mean, I remember reading some of these words, like, I don't know what that word means, but I'm going to keep going. So I must have been 6 years old. So,
and it was funny. I think Tim found my channel from like one of those Facebook groups that were just talking shit about me.
Yeah. I hate this guy. He always says bad stuff about
Hey, that's how I got so many views back in the day with Expanded Universe. I hate this guy. He's using quotes from Lucasfilm.
Yeah,
proved me wrong.
Yeah, it is what it is. So but I Jedi, Matt.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this in the after show.
What, your ex-girlfriend?
No.
Well, I do kind of want to get your thoughts, since you are the one that dislikes this maybe more than many other people. What do you hate so much about iJedi?
Yeah,
oh gosh, I mean, we can't go over this for too long because it's just there's so much. But in a nutshell, I mean, you know what it is. It's just that I know Kevin J. Anderson. He said he allowed for other Jedi to come through, but that Corran Horn can do anything, that knows anything. He's the reason that Jedi Academy, that Luke and the Jedi Academy survived that whole ordeal. Even though we don't hear about him, he did great things behind the scenes, and then he single-handedly takes Luke out with a lightsaber duel, punks him out to leave his Jedi temple, and then Luke comes back and helps him out because, Luke's like, you are the best, Corran. I don't even know why I'm teaching this. I just don't like that. I think Jedi Academy, to me, obviously, you didn't like it. I liked it, and I didn't think there needed to be someone else behind the scenes who was the real person. It felt too much like a Timothy Zahn, novel, like, oh gosh, what are those two novels that with Mara Jade in the background?
Yeah, Spectre of the Past and Vision of the Future.
No, not that one. The prequels. Shoot.
Survivor's
with the
Quest.
storm.
Allegiance.
Yeah.
And
Choices of One.
Choices of One. Yeah. Choices of One. Ooh, Luke and Mara almost met. Oh, they almost met again. Okay, there's no tension here. There's no point to this. You don't even need take out Luke or take out Mara and just do your story. But we know they're not going to meet. Oh, but several times they could have met before. Okay, so I just don't get the purpose. I think it was Choices of One. I just didn't get the purpose of.
It was Choices of One, I believe.
I would have loved it if Luke hadn't have been in that and just been a Mara Jade story.
So for me, I talked about that a little bit, maybe before you actually got here. I talked about how the idea that Corran is kind of, if Corran hadn't been there, the Academy would have everyone would have died probably. But
that's what Stackpole writes it as. Well, go ahead.
To be fair, like the whole Luke thing, that was my biggest criticism of maybe the entire Academy, the Jedi Academy trilogy. Is Luke is fucking retarded. Luke is so stupid. That whole trilogy, like that's a big problem for me. And kind of Corran calls him out on it at one point because he's like, listen, something's clearly wrong with Kip. You're not going to do anything about it. And he's like, well, I just don't think the best thing to do would be to confront him at this time.
Exar Kun tries to tempt Corran, but Corran can resist him, even though he's new to the Force. Come on, man.
Yeah, I agree that the kind of like Corran was so important to all these things that makes me roll my eyes a little bit. However, I think, like I said in the beginning, or like I said to you in the chat, everything that happens at the Jedi Academy is done better in this novel than it is in Kevin J. Anderson's book.
Blasphemy.
Like, no, it's not. Like, that's the problem.
Even
That's the
though I
problem.
can't speak for Stig Kenobi, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I bet he regrets all his words about the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Steve, I don't know, but I will say that it shouldn't have been called the Jedi Academy trilogy. Like that's maybe the biggest problem, because they spend so little time on actually talking about Luke's Luke's training. You know, you get some time with Gantris, some time with Kit, but the like day to day, how they use the Force, like how they're kind of progressing together, the kind of camaraderie they're building. I honestly think that more is done in this book than in that entire trilogy.
He's trying to be nice. I agree. Well, I liked it again because of that, because I did like to see some of that behind the scenes stuff and the character building and the camaraderie, and even the stuff with Corran Horn. I don't know, Matt, if you like Corran Horn, but I just loved getting more of his character and getting inside his head and seeing him also training as a Jedi.
I like Corran Horn fine, but to shoehorn your character into someone else's story who just really wasn't there. I mean, yes, he had to go on an alias name, so that's what explains it. But to be honest, the whole idea of him going under an alias name, what's the point? What's the point? Just so you can squeeze him into that story.
Just so well known that he needs a fucking cover.
He's so
story.
well known
Yeah.
because he's the most famous person in the world. Did I mention that Luke Skywalker was at this academy too?
And Mara's like, you look familiar. And he's like, my name's Corran Horn, and she's like, oh, I've heard of you.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Matt at the beginning that he was a bit of a Gary Stew a little bit in this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He and Ray would have gone well together if they'd have mixed canons.
Well, I will say that he's way more important than he should be in this story. However, like we talked about, he has a lot of failures in the story.
I understand he's the main character because that's Stackpole's character, but Stackpole just wanted him to be part of that original group. But he's too good for that original group because he knows more, and he knows when he has to leave. Now, was he doing? He's emulating Luke from Empire Strikes Back, right? He can't complete his training. But the difference was Luke wasn't solving all the problems there on Dagobah, and he didn't beat Yoda in a force battle and then just take off in his X-Wing. That's what didn't happen. That did happen in I, Jedi. Well, now, again, if he wants to push this to like a second class that goes through, that would have been interesting. That would have been fun. I still don't like anyone getting the upper hand on Luke. Same thing as I frown on anyone getting the upper hand on Boba Fett, which happened maybe once or twice in the expanded universe, but both times didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think that this was a good addition to the Jedi Academy trilogy. It's basically replaces it in my mind. And I don't really have a problem with too much of it. I think he fits it in well. You know what I mean? Like, I think he fits everything well. I think the characters very much still feel like the characters they were the little bit that we got of them in Kevin J. Anderson's. I think that he's a little too important for sure. That he had, if Corran wasn't there, they would have all died clearly. But I do think the way he worked it in was pretty good. And I think
Luke's spirit would have been trapped for eternity. I mean, everything would have just gone off the rails if it hadn't been for Corran Horn. But I want to address something else that Evan's sleeping over here. But anyway, he said that I like the Bantam Era more than Del Rey. No, I appreciate the Bantam Era, and of course I love it. I love the Bantam Era, but Del Rey is better. Why is Del Rey better? Because they built their story on top of Bantam's already previously established lore and connected more things than ever before. And
I can agree with you on that.
It's the best way to show how you don't have to be tied. Because for a while, if you remember, I posted this on the website a long time ago, but there's an old Super Stoney interview where they were actually talking about just getting rid of Bantam completely and then doing their own universe. But she said, no, we can't do that. That would be disrespectful for all these readers who've been reading for years, and now they have to start all over again.
If only we had her or Rinsler still at it.
It's called common sense, something that Kathleen Kennedy did not have when she took control. You got to respect the old. You've got to respect them. They're your core fan base. We're the ones, I say we, Evan's too young, but we're the ones that are, older, a lot of us married, a lot of us with kids. I'm just saying that we have young ones, and we would love to take these. Ryan, Tim, I don't know. Do you have a family?
Ryan does.
Yeah.
I know that.
Ryan, okay. All right. Anyway.
He's like, Tim, do you have a family? He's like, no, he's a fucking like virgin birth, and they dropped me off.
No. You know what I mean. I mean, his own family. But the thing is, I'm just saying, I'll use Ryan for example. Ryan would love to have a Star Wars universe that he could share the enjoyment with his kid with. He would have loved to have gone to those films and said, "Hey, son, you ready for the newest episode of Rep?" I can't say it.
I would love to not look upon my child in shame and want to slap him when he like looks at Star Wars Rebels and is like, "I think this is cool."
Rebels is, to me, Rebels is fine.
Please, Evan, don't go
it's
down that road.
Fine. It's fine.
Anyway.
It's not awful. It's not, the greatest thing since sliced goddamn bread. It's
I
all
know
right.
why your girlfriend left you.
Oh,
Space Aladdin.
It was over Rebels, wasn't it?
No.
Anyway, I love you.
I only got to.
Fine.
I only was able. Listen, I was only able to show her like the first 6 Star Wars movies. I did that much. I refused to watch any of the sequel trilogy or what Disney made.
Gotta stay one step ahead of the Empire.
I'm like, stay away from the shit. It's bad.
But I would say this. We all want. I had a buddy of mine who was hoping that Disney Star Wars would be good, and it was not. Same. And it breaks his heart that he has nothing that he can enjoy with his son. I mean, there's other things, but he was really hoping Star Wars would be that thing that they could bond over, do things over. They both share an interest in and love. Just like, for me, back in the day, because I'm old school, sports, your dad loved baseball. You love baseball, man. Baseball's fun. Y'all both get into it. My dad was excited when we were collecting baseball cards back in the day because he was into baseball cards. You share those things with your children. I get that now. Man, I want to share things with my girls when they get older. If they like Star Wars, excellent. If they like the expand, Daddy's going to read these to them. If they say, Daddy, I don't want to hear them anymore, I'll be like, okay. Well, if you put them to sleep, I show them one of your videos. But when they get older, I'm going to hopefully have nighttime videos with watching them, having them read some of these, starting with the younger books and moving up from there. But, like I said, I hope it's something they can enjoy. Maybe not, but we'll find something in common. But you want these things. And the thing is, though, it's a no-brainer. If we are having an established franchise with established people who are true, Amazon Prime keeps their Prime members happy. They want to give them as much because they want to keep them in. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hit the reset button. No one who in their right mind hits the reset button. The new Lucasfilm, because they want to do something they think better. Remember, it was stopping creativity, so they had to get rid of the EU. Really, Del Rey didn't feel that way. In fact, Del Rey got even more creative, in my opinion.
Yep.
Building the story off the shoulders of what was previously established. That to me is a show of more creativity. Where does Disney's creativity come? Either comes from a flaming dumpster or it comes from the EU, which we've seen 1 billion times over. We've seen 1 billion times over, and they're going to keep borrowing from it. Okay? Now, whether you like that or not, that's up to you. For me, though, I don't like it, but they own it, so they can do whatever they want. But my problem with that is
they do it badly. That's the thing.
EU, right? I'm sorry, Kanye West, you there, Miss Martin. I'll let you talk in just a minute. But, why get rid of the EU? If you were just going to, just borrow so much from it. I just don't get
Steal is what I call it.
Steal. Well, again, Tim, they own it. So
legally, but morally,
they can do it. But Tim, they already established the precedent that we're getting rid of it so we can be creative. Mm-hmm. You're not creative. You're borrowing from the same stories. Mm-hmm. It's one of my early videos, I predicted before episode 7 came out, I said, hey, spoilers for episode 9. Because I knew Rey and I don't know the kid. I'm sorry. I've never seen the movies. Who's the other one? Kylo
Ren.
Jason. Yeah.
Kylo Ren. Okay. I knew those two were going to fight to the death and Kylo's going to win. Because I knew that because I'd read Legacy of the Force. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, Matt, you called this. No, I didn't. I read it years ago. The thing
is with me, like, I don't want to get off track with, my Like, I don't mind them borrowing from, like, to me, I don't mind them borrowing from the EU, because literally it's like, yeah, like, I can say, yeah, this is where this so-and-so comes from. Here's a better version of that. Like, I don't, I don't think it's bad that they're doing it, but it's more of, I'm more neutral on it. Like, yeah, they should have stuck to their guns and done something, with the EU continuing it. But at the same time, it's, they're making an effort to, bring elements of what was canon back in.
I will say
even
this.
Even though it is sometimes inferior and sometimes not that greatly executed, at least they're acknowledging that they are pulling from it. Like, that's the main thing.
I will say
They're not
this.
acknowledging Jack, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead. Please go ahead.
I was just saying they're not acknowledging Jack. They just are doing it. It's I don't see them saying, "Oh yes, thank you to Timothy Zahn for doing this or this or that." They're not actually referencing that they're not acknowledging that they're doing that. They're just fucking doing it and making a big mess.
Here's what's interesting. You brought up the Adventure Journal earlier. I was flipping through one a few weeks ago and I came across something and I'm like, wait a minute. So in the Solo movie, they portray Lando as recording these, I guess, embellished adventures, and it was in line with the L. Neil Smith novels.
Yeah.
Well, I found this interview with, I think it was Bill Smith with West End Games. So it was like a intercompany email or interview that they were doing with him, and he said, "Hey, we have a book coming out, Lando Calrissian source book, and it's going to be written as if he's writing an autobiography, kind of like Pando was doing in the Solo movie." And I'm like, wait a minute here, what's going on? Well, you know who's on the Lucasfilm story group that helped with the Solo story? It's our friend Pablo Hidalgo. And I'm like, is it a coincidence? Maybe, but that's kind of a big coincidence to me to come up with that idea.
Pablo is such a hack to me. Like, I don't like Pablo.
Oh yeah,
he's
a condescending prick. I met him in 2002. I met him in 2002.
Let's not mince words.
He's a fucking asshole.
Well, I want to go back to something that Evan had said earlier, because I'm not sure everyone watching the stream was listening when Evan talked. So, but one of the things he said he did kind of like, I'm picking. I just keep punching him. That's because I like him, folks. I do like Evan.
And we can all have different opinions.
The thing is, I'm just telling you that Joe Bonjourner from StarWarsTimeline.net shares your opinion. He is excited about that. He is very hopeful. In fact, we've been talking a lot frequently about this. He is a big, who is he? He is the Cal Omas right now of the universe. He wants to make the parlay with Disney Star Wars. He always is hoping that they would kind of mesh it in, like bring Legends in as an alternate universe that exists in line with the. I'm not a big fan of that at all.
No, like some of the things like that are a bit extreme to me, but no, I agree so far.
But he's hoping that this bridges a division, and hopefully maybe this will open up a avenue to where new Legend stories could be told in some alternate reality or alternate dimension thing. I'm not for that. Jon Favreau's not an idiot. He understands there's a big core group that they lost because of this. He's been trying to wine and dine them through Mandalorian, and he's doing great jobs. I've heard a lot of people enjoy it. That's fine. As long as they don't bring back a young Luke, I'm fine with Anyway, no, I'm really fine with people liking the new stuff. I really am. I don't care. It's whatever you like. People keep telling me, Matt, I wish you'd watch the sequels so we could hear your opinion on them. No, I'm going to hate them. And I'm not going to sit there and, first off, waste my time watching movies I'm not interested in. And then secondly, I don't want to ruin it for someone else. If they enjoy it, why would I go in there knowing that I'm not going to like it because I've already read a better story and just going to trash it? That kind of ruins the experience for someone else.
To me, it's like, I've watched them. It's like, this is not my Star Wars. Like, you guys can do whatever you want. Now, this is what I like. This is what I'm collecting. This is what I read. This is my continuity. This is my Star Wars.
But is it true you sleep with a stuffed porg?
This is not true. I plead the fifth.
Baby Yoda?
No.
Hey, I have a Baby Yoda. I will admit it, and I'm not ashamed.
But the thing
Pando
is
Calrissian?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
The thing
I
is
wouldn't let
that
him around your other pillows, Evan.
right. The big thing is though for me, it's like I'm not going to criticize. Like I can criticize the new stuff, but I'm not going to because it's still someone else's Star Wars. I mean, even though we don't like it, it's still something that I think this generation will grow up liking. It's not, yeah, these are different characters than what we had before, and if they want to take it in a new direction, so be it. But this still remains, though. You can still read these. You can still pick them up. You can still, interact with these stories, and you decide what you like, what you want to read, and what you consider Star Wars. Like, it's not like I don't go on Twitter bitching about like stupid crap that The Mandalorian does because it's like, well, that's different. It's a different universe. I'm not going to compare it to Legends. If they want to bring stuff in from Legends, that's a new version of the character, but it's not the same. And I don't expect it to be the same character as before. If they want to do, like, even if it's a worse character, what was presented from Legends, it's like, so be it. That's that version of the character. There's still this version. So I don't think that, it's like the character is tarnished by new canon. I think it's more of, there's an effort being made to bring some of these elements back to it than there is to not acknowledge stuff at all. And, they're still reprinting these books and just stuff like that.
I will say this, anyone who goes in with an open mind looking at the new canon and then wants to, compare and contrast, I'm fine with that. At least you're giving it a shot.
I'm okay. I'm okay
with that too. I'm not saying you shouldn't trash the new canon. Heaven forbid. Then I'm going up against the mighty RK Outpost himself, and I don't need his followers to come after me. I mean, he's got Hollywood supporters too that would come down and rain on my non-Twitter account if I ever raised a voice against the man. But the thing is, though, Ryan's trying to make it. He wants things to be better. He looks at things wanting to make better.
Right. No, and I want things to be better too because I know that quality storytelling should be a primary focus, and it's not. But I don't see that as, as I should go out of my way and, compare and contrast like what is in this universe to what is new because it's still there. That's the thing to me. It's like I rather not, complain about something that has no impact on my enjoyment of something.
But you can also look at a lot of these longtime supporters who welcomed the new canon with open arms and then now are completely tuned out. My buddy Nathan P. Butler from Star Wars Timeline Gold was a huge fan, huge supporter of the new canon, and then eventually now he's completely out. He's not going to do it anymore. He's just done with it. He's just so frustrated with it to no end that now he's just sitting back reviewing DVDs or things from the Star Wars library. That's his nick now because he's not going to do anything new. He doesn't care about it anymore. I mean, so when you have someone like that who's been so long-term invested, who gave the new canon a shot and doesn't like it, he has every right to complain about it, and then he's turned away. But then that's a bad sign if you're a Lucasfilm, if you're Kathleen Kennedy, because like, oh, dang, there's another long-term person who just finally just gave up. You got to admit your stories are crap. You didn't do well.
Right. No, and I agree with that. Like, I feel the same way with that. It's not like I didn't give Disney a shot, and some things they put out are all right. I haven't put anything like top tier, best thing ever, though, from them.
Miss Martin, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any friends you could hook Evan up with? I'm sorry. Do you have any enemies you could hook him up with?
As if I were to say, the question is, do I have any friends? I would. No. Evan, you invite it by always talking about your breakup with your girlfriend.
Yeah. I mean, I'm over it now. It's just that came up tonight because
you're
bring it up. You're obviously over
you
it.
talk about it all the time. Yeah. And listen, I'm just done with people's SHIT. That's all I got to say about that. And so, I actually no, I don't even know how old you are, Evan. I mean,
I'm 22, going to turn 23 in March.
Really?
He's 22 and a half.
Yeah.
He gets to sit in the front seat of the car.
I get to drive the car,
behind
Matt.
the wheel.
Chris says Evan and Callum broke up.
No.
I told him we were
Hey, you
streaming.
leave Callum alone. You leave
Yeah,
Callum alone.
Callum's gone right now.
So
Please leave a message.
Chris comes in, slam dunks it, and then walks off the court. I love it.
Yeah.
so here's the way I look at it. Evan, you're perfectly fine to have your opinion that
No,
if
yeah.
you don't like something, just don't talk
Yeah,
about it.
and that's the same thing with you, Ryan. It's like I'm not going to disagree with you because you're allowed to have your own thing.
All right. So, but what I'm saying is that, like, for me, I want to talk about these things because,
Right.
let me fucking speak. In my opinion, what we're getting right now is less than what we should be getting, less than what we could be getting, less than what we have gotten before.
Yep.
So what I'm doing is I'm holding them accountable for what I feel like it should be, what I feel like the best stories that they can tell are. And I'm going to criticize them. And just because, like, there's a lot of people out there right now that because you saw a moment that you thought you should have seen a long time ago, Luke Skywalker kicking some ass, you get that and some bad CGI, and you're rejoicing, and like literally someone just took some keys, jangled them in front of you, and you forgot about everything for a while. And that's fine. If you're excited about that, that's cool. To me, that is not good storytelling. That is a flash in the pan, get you excited and make you forget about everything they are fucking doing to these characters, all the plot holes in this season, all like. To me, what rewatchability is The Mandalorian season 2 going to have? It was all reliant upon shock value of these cameos. Mm-hmm. That's not storytelling. That is a resuscitation of a fan base. That is instead of epinephrine, you're injecting them with fucking fan service, and that's not a story.
Right?
Tim, that speech right there is why Ryan has 10 times the subscribers I do. I want to stand up on my desk and say, "Oh, Captain, my captain," after that. But yeah,
right. And I agree with you with that, Ryan. It's again, they're not putting out the quality they are, and they are relying on nostalgia here, nostalgia. You get nostalgia. I agree with you on that. But the thing is that and I do watch those videos by you.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's why this new continuity is unforgivable, in my opinion. And I've talked about this before. They got rid of the old so they could bring in these authors that don't have any experience and talk about menstruation and how Han is a racist and how Lando fucks robots. And, that's why it's unforgivable. It's not that, we just want to have a clean slate. No, they wanted to bring identity politics in. They wanted to ruin all the characters, break them down, deconstruct them, because that's the thing these days. Everything is bad. All your heroes need to be destroyed, and that's what they're doing. And that's why I will not forgive them until, and I know this will never happen, but it's still my stance, until they say, hey, please forgive us. EU is back. Good authors are back. And here are the books. I know that's never going to happen, but that's my standard.
It's debasing every character, even from. I mean, you talk about Lando, but it's also talking about Han Solo. Oh no, he's not that good a dad. He regressed into being a husband who left his family because he shirked responsibility. Really, because the whole story arc of the original trilogy is he goes from a loner to having to welcoming friends and family and bringing them in together.
And then it's a complete.
We got to post with Luke, who is the most optimistic person in the galaxy because he's the only one who sees good in Darth Vader. He's the only one. So he goes from the most optimistic, you can't tell him, the sun is not shining, to quit the Jedi, give up. I'm going to go gorge myself on milk from an alien that I don't know exactly. I don't know. Anyway, the thing is,
I think. Like, I might have the unpopular opinion, but I think they could tell a story if they did it the right way.
Yeah.
If they took the time where, we saw, look what happened when Mara died. Like, the person that Luke became, the actions that he took, killing Lumaya the way he did, right? You can tell a story where it would make sense for Luke Skywalker to lose his way, to lose his path that way. The way you don't tell that story is to be like, oh yeah, well he thought his nephew may at one point do something bad, so he decided to fucking kill him in his sleep. That's not the way to tell that story.
I'm thinking about Greg's meme from the other day.
Yeah.
10 minutes after Luke finds out Baby Yoda ate eggs. So.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I would love for someone to Photoshop Baby Yoda.
But that's my big issue. You know, that's why they did it. It's disgusting. So.
No, I acknowledge all that stuff. I mean, I agree with it. You know?
I would love.
I'm like focusing on.
I agree with Tim. It's a far reach that this would happen, but I would love for them to cobble together just an avenue for something where the Legends universe could continue. I don't even care if it's through an online, StarWars.com, just a tab where you just have short stories of the week or something. But they should allow another avenue of a different story to be told. Every franchise has that now. They have alternate universes and alternate, tales. Why not just continue Legends? Make those people happy. Make some money.
We talked about this last night on my stream, and Ryan was there. And one thing we brought up is, let's say that happened with the current editorial staff. Do we think we would get the same types of stories we used to get, or would they also be rife with identity politics and stuff? It's almost like you'd have to license out that to a certain company that would manage it well, but didn't bring in these authors. And even some of the older authors, probably in their personal lives, they really are woke, but they just kept it out of their writing. So now, would they bring it in now that they feel like they have a green light? But that's a 2-hour-long conversation we could probably
That's okay.
have,
I did while you were talking, I subscribed, so I'll check it out.
Oh, thanks.
Oh.
I might even be subscribed to yours because
no, I don't.
I have so many subs, man.
If you get spammed with stupid fucking games like a board game shit, you're probably subscribed to Matt. Because every morning I wake up, it's a new board game.
Shut up! I'm reviewing. I'm counting down my board games right now. Screw you, Ryan. I have to deal with video game outrage, rage videos from Ryan all the time. I was shocked when I saw that he was actually doing something with the EU. I forgot why we were friends at first. I was like, why did I fall in love with this gamer who gets mad at everything?
No, but sure, they would just burn it because everything that they have turns to dust. I hate to be hate to be that negative, but I already went through all the emotions that I already went through with The Force Awakens, with what they did to Han and Leia, and then what they did to Luke in The Last Jedi, and they can just F themselves for all I care. They've shown again and again that they really ultimately do not care for these stories. They do not care for their fans, and they are never going to change.
I would agree with that when it comes to the new canon. However, if I may give a rebuttal, this comic book that came out last year falls in line with the original Marvel universe. It comes from Legends. It was a new Legends story written by Matthew Rosenberg and a few other people. This was created by people from Marvel who cared about the old Marvel comic book, plus they cared about the expanded universe. I actually interviewed Matthew Rosenberg last year on my channel, and he told me that at Marvel there were a ton of people who were old expanded universe fans who put a nice little retcon in here that I absolutely enjoyed. It was unnecessary, but they did it, talking about that. I can't remember the Galactic Federation, the Galactic Away thing. They changed it to the New Republic.
I noticed that immediately.
They mentioned that here, but then Matthew Rosenberg was telling about a few other things they put in there, and they had more ideas. They just couldn't put them all in there. Like the whole rumor, is that Mara Jade in the background? He said yes. Well, he said he won't deny it.
You know what's interesting though with that?
Hold on just a moment. Let me let Taylor Swift finish her discussion. Then you can come up there and just interrupt me there. But anyway, I just want to say that because of people like that, if I would argue that if they got the right people involved, which I would say a lot of those old school people, bring them involved, they care about the story, because I agree with you, with all the new people, they don't care.
Mhm.
And you and Tim are dead on right. They care about putting their politics in there and their beliefs in there. They don't even care if it's good or not. They just want to shove it down your throat. Okay, fine. Go and float those books. But if you have people who care about it and they put them in control, like they did with Marvel, I think you can get a decent product. Now, there's always the risk. I agree with both of you. Whoever, what they have running it right now, what they have I mean, they ran this through the story group, but they didn't really do anything about it because they don't care about Legends at all. They do not care about Legends.
But do you think that they allowed it to happen because it was a comic, and they felt maybe they're such Egypts, they don't respect comics as a venue? Would they really allow?
I don't know if, I mean, that's something I wouldn't be able to, I mean, I could only guess if it was. I mean, maybe if it was a one-time, one-off comic book. But the thing is, though, as they're reaching, it's obvious they're trying to grab new fans, right? They're trying to grab fans every way they can. Mandalorian is almost written like an apology letter to a lot of these fans, trying to beg them to come back. Would you say that? I've never seen it, but it seems like, from what I hear, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, kind of.
But there was also some things.
No, I'm not. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Hold on, we need to add some cuteness to the channel. Come here.
Oh, look at that! Oh,
okay. These are my little twin girls. Yay! Wave it! Yay!
They're walking now, right? They're walking around.
Oh, walking.
Oh, look at the smile.
Nice.
This is Piper, and this is Meridian.
Oh.
Say hello. Yeah, that's Mr. Tim, that's Miss Martin, that's Ryan, and that's Loser. Okay.
That's Evan.
Loser.
Evan's gonna be their first word.
Oh. And look, he's just stone cold ignoring my little girl. Wow.
Star Wars Elseworld says that's not going to be a problem for Matt. Make sure to tell them the sequels are not canon when they're older.
What sequels?
What sequels?
Yeah, I got a question for you. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of rumors flying around about potentially a reboot, or not a reboot, but a decanonization of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, no, because the thing is with that, and this is my reasoning, is that if they do that, it's just going to look bad for Kathleen. It's just going to show incompetence, and if you show incompetence as the CEO, they're going to eat you alive. They're going to ask for your resignation, and it proves to the higher ups that you didn't do a good job. She needs to still maintain this facade of what I did was right. And that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that in general, Matt? Is that something, if they did that, even if they didn't necessarily recanonize, that you would have any interest in that?
I would agree they're not going to do that. I just don't see them doing that. Let's say they did. Let's say they scrap it on and say, hey, you know what? We'll go with Legends. Fine. We're going to build a story after that. They wouldn't, but I would probably be on the same fence. The people who are running, I mean, it's just impossible. The people who are running Lucasfilm, it's obviously the story group cares nothing about Legends, and they hate expanded universe fans because they're not bowing down to their story. It's that little brother syndrome or whatever, that they're just so jealous. They're so jealous of all these diehard fans that just love these stories that they don't even want to acknowledge it. Even when they borrow from it, they don't want to acknowledge it. You know, they make a point. Pablo Hidalgo himself makes a point to mock EU fans whenever he gets a chance, which is mind-boggling because he's the one that wrote a pretty good essential reader's companion that
it's subpar at best, in my opinion. No, it really is subpar at best, because literally you can tell reading that thing that the minimum of effort was put into that. It's literally Pablo writing summaries for books straight up, like no retcons involved, nothing. It's just reading through. It's like describing what happens in these books, and like no extra.
It's just a Wikipedia entry.
It pretty much is what it is, and it's just I hate to say this. I rather prefer the essential characters that was going to come out.
For a man who came in from the expand, I mean, West End Games got him his job, and he got his job into Lucasfilm from there. So he came from the expanded universe, and to be so disrespectful that he is to it now, is just awful. It's just awful. And to be disrespectful to the fans, there's no point. There's no point in doing that. Like I said, everyone has a reason to hate Ryan Johnson. Anyone who just sits there and just mocks the fans, blames them when things go wrong, that's wrong. I would rather have a Ron Howard any day. Ron Howard, who said when they made Solo, well, his response about the negative things, he said, well, I'm sorry they feel that way. I felt we made a good movie. He didn't say, well, the reason they hate it is because they're bigots, they're racists, they're Nazis. That's why they hated it. No, he didn't say that. All he said was, I'm sorry they didn't like it. I thought we made a good movie. You know what? That's good enough for me. That's all. If you just say that, then no one has a problem.
Oh, we got called dumb a few days ago on a podcast about The Mandalorian 2. We're not nuanced enough to understand that this bad CGI Luke is actually Jake Skywalker from the Disney trilogy. So yeah, that's going to go on forever.
Here's the thing that I said for all the. There's not a retcon happening. It's not going to happen. They're not going to leave this. Here's what I said last night, and it was really the first time I'd thought about it, was if you want them to do a retcon, if you want to them to show you they're using the Veil of the Force, World Between Worlds, to eliminate the sequel trilogy, what has to happen is you need to have yet another story about how they deal with Palpatine. That's the only way you can do it, or else Palpatine is there. Like, so that's what you're asking for. You're asking for another story of Palpatine being defeated again. So I think that is, I don't think people really understand that that's what needs to happen. Otherwise, Palpatine's always out there in Exegol. He's always doing his thing. He's always survived according to their current lore. So,
hey, I'm sorry, I've got to go.
Yeah,
I've already reached the maximum amount of time I can spend with Evan, but I really appreciate hanging out with all you, Tim. Great to meet you.
Yeah, you too, sir.
Look over some of your videos. Miss Martin, can't wait to have you on the stream. We can talk about Evan and his, what we think his love issues really are. And Ryan, man, you the man. Glad to see you, brother. Glad you're doing all right. Hope you're going to have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Evan, I just want to say that, all kidding put aside.
Well, I was gonna wish him a Merry Christmas, but he yoinked out before I could even say it. So, no, like literally, I was gonna wish him a Merry Christmas because I probably won't be able to talk to him till then. So, yeah, thanks, Matt.
Well, ironically, this was actually supposed to be about iJedi, not The Last Jedi.
Well, the thing is, I think adding, some other stuff in besides iJedi is also kind of good, get our thoughts and opinions. And we talked about this. It becomes more, these streams become more personal when we talk about other things than just, the book.
That's true. But to kind of wrap it all up, final thoughts for iJedi. Teresa.
Well, it was loads of fun. I enjoyed it more than the Jedi Academy trilogy. I think it's great lore, great exploration of certain characters. It has its moments where this time around I really noticed the Gary Stu aspect of it. So I think I'm going to give it a rating of a 7 out of 10.
There you go. Tim.
Yeah. 7/10, and to put that in perspective across all media, like I gave this finale of Mandalorian like a 2.5 out of 10. So that that kind of tells you how much better I think iJedi is, for the same reasons we've stated throughout the stream. Well written book, but it just has a couple of, I think, narrative issues. So I like the book.
Yeah, agree. Evan, have you done your tally? You usually end up like forgetting that you're supposed to rate this, and then you put it.
The thing is I'm gonna
2.863.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Now for this, I think I'm gonna rank it about the same, about a 7. Just based on, it improves the Jedi Academy trilogy by a little bit, but yet it retreads some of the old ground. And the first person is unique, and I like it. However, it's a bit jarring at times, I should say. And the way they had to, Stackpole had to puzzle his way through stuff and able to describe things outside with the mind reading stuff. rate it 7, but that's about it. Like nothing too bad. Besides him being a bit of a Gary Stu as well. That brings it down for me. And again, retreading old ground.
Yeah. I don't like the Gary Stu thing. I really don't think he's a Gary Stu. I think he's. I said it before. I think he's very important to this. He's more important than he should be. However, even in those things, he has some pretty big mistakes. Like he breaks his leg facing off against Exar Kun. He can't even lift a rock. He has weaknesses, but he also has his specific strengths. And he's able to lean into those strengths a lot. He's literally out there feeling envious about another guy being with a girl. Like he's trying to work his way through these feelings. He's getting lost in himself. I think he has a lot of failures along in this book. They aren't severe necessarily, but I do think they are. He's more important than he was supposed to be. That's, I think, kind of to wrap it up. I give it about a 7.5. I still really like it. It's, like I said, leaps and bounds better than the Jedi Academy trilogy. And it is one of my favorite characters. And even in retrospect, maybe up against some other media, it doesn't quite hold up. I still really like the story.
The only thing I'll say is you do know that Stackpole portrayed Corran Horn for photographs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I knew that. That was for the trading card game,
for
right?
the CCG, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still call it the trading card game because it's a collectible card game. Just, I'll renege a little bit. He's not really a Gary Stu, but he's on that kind of edge. The author made him very self-important. Let's just put it that way. He's more important than I think he should have been.
Right, but to me, like the reason Ray's Mary Sue is because she
handed everything.
She does everything with no real repercussions, right? Whereas like Corran, you literally see him like training and struggling through training, and he's not as powerful as Kip. Like there's literally someone there who's more powerful than him immediately. So that's kind of why I think maybe a better way to do it is incredibly too self-important in their own story. But anybody else got any final words before we close out?
I'd say that Matt, I was going to wish you a Merry Christmas. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate the Merry Christmas back. But I think that was my final thoughts on that. It's a fine book, above average.
A lot better than that stupid zombie book, I'll say that.
Oh my God.
That's about on par for me, though. Like, I don't know, it's a bit on par. Red Harvest a little lower for me, but I kind of agree to a point. No, but I think that's it from me.
Well, make sure to subscribe to all these wonderful people: Miss Martin Muses, Open Airlock Policy, Holocron Keeper Evan, and even Matt Wilkins.
Please don't. Please, the only thing I ask when you get to my channel, please do not downvote all my videos.
Okay, so what he means is, please do downvote all his videos.
No, because I've been ratioed.
Well, Evan, I told you I'm going to watch those ones you put out because it looks like you're passionate about the topic and you put a lot of work into it. I just need to find some time where I can listen as I'm working during the day or something.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
However, it's something you can just pause and
go
through. If you have like 15 minutes, you can watch 15
I don't watch them. I just listen to those when I'm at the gym.
Thank you, Ryan. He's listening to my bullshit as he's working. He's on the treadmill or pumping on it.
I even liked it, even though I disagree with it. So.
I still appreciate it, Ryan.
That's right. All right. But thank you guys all in the chat. 3-hour stream, Jesus Christ. Hopefully got some good watch hours on this channel. I'd like to get this thing monetized in the next couple of months. That'd be nice. Need to actually do stuff on here, though. That's the key. But thank you to my wonderful guests. Thank you to the chat for participating as always. And we'll talk to you next time.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
And actually, happy holidays.
Feliz Navidad.
No, fuck that. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
All right, talk to you later.
Goodbye.